end here. Okay, now I pop this out. Hello, hello. Sorry about that, you guys. I kind of missed the other stuff, but okay. Hold on. Now I gotta change my category. Oops. What the? Alrighty. And then I'm gonna end my TikTok stream as well. See you later, TikTok. Bye bye. Okay. So, um, let me just set up a scene here. No, that's not it. Is my Twitch stream frozen? Wait, hold on.
Let me see.
My Chrome.
Oh, look at all those tabs.
It's just multiply. Don't worry about it. Okay. No, it's hold on. This? Okay, 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 perfect. I'll take the desk away. You know what? I'm just gonna use the other scene. It's too hard. Pardon the setup, you guys. Put on some nice background music. Oh wait, that's me. This is also me. I had this up like a minute ago. I can't find it.
Hello.
No, wrong video.
Ascoons. No.
Okay, okay, okay. I found it.
And once you get everything set up, would you like to do shared chats so that we see like
Yes.
what everyone's to? Okay.
Are you streaming it too, Kuro, or?
I'm not streaming.
Okay.
There's.
Oh, I don't have the stream to knock, right?
So this is a video.
Okay, okay. Do you guys want to watch like the whole thing, or do you just want to watch like the parts of it and react to the parts that I want to do?
Whatever you want to watch.
Okay, okay.
Let's see.
Because if you don't, then I have to give a little bit of context.
Okay.
Okay.
It's nearly 4 hours. That would be like a hard grind.
Yeah, it would be really long. So, let me bring up my chats again because I have to. For those of you who are just joining in, Ash's Creation is a MMO game that I've been looking forward to for a very long time. And the thing is, this is a kind of like a drama event that's been happening between the creator Steven Sharif and one of the like longest standing content creators for Ash's Creation ever since its like inception around 5 or 6 years ago. His name is Narc, but pretty much like he puts out content like weekly for Ashes of Creation, even though the game's been in development for like 5 or 6 years. And most of it's just like speculation content or like talking about the game and why he's excited about it and stuff like that. And then like 1 year ago, or like a little bit over a year ago, like the type of content that he's been putting out is starting to get like a lot more skeptical. And it's been getting more like what's it called? Like more negative. And so he released a video recently that I think, what was the title of it? Let me look. It's by Narc. This will be my last Ash as a creation video, and it got like a huge traction
Damn.
to the point where a lot of people have started looking at it, and so I was curious about what that video was, and because we don't want to like watch everything, we probably won't go over exactly what was said in the video because Asmongold will probably go over it. But in this interview, he has 2 interviews, one with Narc and then one with the actual creator of the game, Steven Sharif. But before they actually watch it, Steven watched the video from Narc and made a video himself on a separate account, not related to the game. And that's like the first
I upload
43 minutes of this video. The video itself is only like 17 minutes. So yeah, the way you want to do this, do you want to like react to hold on, let's sync up our chats first. Because let's be clear, I've watched part of it and I'm still very excited for the game. That's a lot of words, I know. He has more tabs than I do, dude. But you need tabs, dude. How do I just knock on yours? Accept.
I'm knocking yours. Yeah. Let me in.
Did it work?
I believe so. Well, I'm in here alone.
Huh?
Yeah, it says participants 1 of 6. How did this happen?
Hold on.
1 of 6.
Click on your stream. How do I knock? Join.
Ah, there we go. Start.
Hold on, let me mute that. Okay.
And then minimize.
Yeah.
Cool.
All right. So I think we can start at 46:17, or 46:12, which seems to be like the start of the video. Let me see if I can like full screen this and then yeah, this one seems to work fine.
Okay. I was at 46:12. Almost. All right.
Yeah, all our chats are in here. Hishiramuku, Lani Bunny, Sinclair, Claude, Ash, Gloom, Claude. Good to see you guys. Hey, Turkey.
Ready when you are, Captain.
All right, we play. Go. Oh, wait.
Yo,
Yeah,
what's up,
okay.
man?
It's going.
Yo, Asman, hello.
How you doing?
46.
Yeah, I'm
18
good.
now.
Yeah, well,
Yeah.
I was having fun. I was playing Dark Souls, and then suddenly I wasn't playing Dark Souls.
Which Dark Souls are you playing?
Witcher 1. I've never played Dark Souls before in my entire life.
Oh
so,
my God.
So it's the first.
Well, you know.
Do you know what? Hey, I two-shot Smaug and that guy. I two-shot him.
I'm gonna be honest. That is impressive. Smog and Ornstein. Yeah, in Orlando,
Yeah,
that is
Ornstein,
impressive. Okay, good.
Dude, I touched
it was
Fuck.
good.
Elden Ring,
Yeah,
and I don't think
was
I'll ever play
surprised.
So
Dark
you're
Souls in my
liking the
life.
game?
Molding.
Really? I kind of liked it.
Yeah.
The game's actually.
It's not for
insane,
everyone,
and
though.
I'm really
I
looking
can see
forward
that.
to. Obviously, I'm going to make a video about it and stuff
Good.
like that because of this whole situation. You know, my goal is to.
Maybe if you like played it how it's
distance
supposed to be
myself
played, it
with
would be fine.
Ashes
So,
because of the whole
Okay,
situation.
but like
how'd this
sometimes
start? Because
you
it
see like a
seems
thing coming at you,
Like I'm sure you
and
probably did. You see my reaction? To
like
your
if you
video and
time, you're
everything?
supposed to time it like almost as
I didn't
if
get
the
that
damage
yet.
is coming
But I got
delayed.
the
I feel
TLDR.
like.
Apparently,
Yeah,
so
I feel
apparently
that. You got to get used to
you,
that. And the camera's stupid on PC.
That's
obviously I'm
annoying.
paraphrasing, and I've got it from
Yeah,
a
yeah.
bunch of Twitch chat Randy's. You were like
I think he starts talking about it right now.
disagreeing with the video,
Mhm.
but then apparently your comment section was actually agreeing with me.
Yeah,
in the video.
a lot of people actually agreed with you in the comment section. A lot of the chatters did, and commenters.
So the thing
did.
is, if anyone who's actually played the game,
Mhm.
like knows the truth, right? Because they've been to the desert, they know the state of the desert.
Hey, Fitzbara.
Well, how do you
So that's
how do you
the-
how do you reconcile that with people like
Watching
Pirate
the
Software who
Ashes
played the
creation
game a
video.
lot, who show
Honestly, I
that that's
don't
not
know
the
what
case?
I'm gonna be honest. I have no idea what's going through Pirate's head.
Mhm.
Okay.
Because I don't know what he sees in the video game.
I forgot to mention.
Pirate,
Pirate
I'll say to him though.
is also in here
he
somewhere.
really,
after
really
Steven's
likes the
comment.
video
Pirate
game.
Software.
I love
he's
that
liked it
guy.
Because
Yeah,
he thinks
he's
the video
really
game's gonna be
cool.
like Eve Online. I don't really think the game's going to be like Eve Online.
Okay.
I think it's trying to be more like Lineage, or Arcade, not Eve. So
Well, yeah, I
what
mean, I
Pirate's
know
trying to do with
Steven
video
played a lot of
games-
Lineage before
Yeah.
before this, and Arcade as well. Yeah.
Yeah, so like Pirate's his perception of the video game, I feel like is Pirate wants it to be one thing, which I just don't think it is, and it's never tried to be that. But then there's this other group who want it to be like classic WoW. Then there's the group who want it to be like Lineage. So there's like factions within the game's community who want it to be in different ways.
I think
And
that's
I didn't even know-
that's a huge problem for like every MMO, because like
Yeah,
every
yeah.
MMO is going to have like a faction of people that want it to be
Yeah,
a hardcore PvP,
it's hard to appease
or
to, like,
you know, they want it to
everyone.
be a theme park,
Yeah.
or they want it to be an MMO.
And they already
or
said
want to
they're
have
not doing
roguelike
that,
features
like,
or something.
they don't
Yeah,
have
it's
to.
impossible to manage all of those expectations, sure.
Yeah.
But like, I mean, I think Pirate Software looked at, for example, like the desert, and I think that was really the main point of contention that a lot of people are bringing up.
Yeah.
Is that
Okay, yeah. So the
Yeah.
desert's currently in two sections. There is an old section of the desert, the thing that you've got up on your stream at the moment, the current state.
Yeah, yeah.
This section of the desert that looks
Hi,
quote unquote
Greg.
complete.
Pokemon.
This isn't complete. This is just a bare bones, empty area that's had trees placed around it. The grass, you can even see the grass in this screenshot right now is not rendering correctly because the grass doesn't render correctly in this area. This is an unfinished area. It's got 0 points of interest. It's got 0 dungeons. All it's got is random mobs and random trees placed all around it. I made a whole video showing this segment of the desert in phase 1. I flew around this and I made a bet with Steven and said, you know what? If the desert exists,
Hey Nori, yeah,
I'll
this is
cut my beard
Ashes.
off. And
This
guess
is
what?
called
I
Ashes
flew around
Creation.
this section and I was like, yeah, do you know what? The desert exists. I'll shave my beard off.
oh, that's a lot.
And I fucking look like a thumb. I look like a thumb
No.
for, what was it, 2-3 weeks?
So then what changed?
So what changed was when phase 2 launched, they advertised phase 2 with a $110 price tag, having an expansion to the desert. So that, and I stated this explicitly in the video, it's all about the expansion. The expansion to the desert
Did you
is what
say
I
that in
showed.
the video? I don't remember you saying that, because like, so, and this is the impression that I got. Well, you can see like, so like when I watched the video that you did, the impression that I got from the video is that you were showing the desert and there was like nothing in the desert at all. Like all of the images that you showed you, and it looks like if you look at your mini map, you're basically on the edge of the map. And
Well, if you bring up my stream right now, if you can.
sure,
Um,
yeah.
Wait, is Narc Chicken Noodle Copium Kitty
where I am
Club?
currently
That
is
sounds like
smack
something
bang
you would do, yeah.
right in the middle of the desert.
Okay.
There
Wow,
is
how
a
do you know
node
about that?
directly in front of me. This little crop of land is a node, right?
Yeah.
Ignore the crop of land. I don't care about the crop of land because that's just a node.
Mhm.
The point is, all around it,
Mm-hmm.
it's just emptiness everywhere. There is no desert. This isn't a desert expansion. This is just sand.
But you can see, so I think that's a good point you're bringing up, and you're saying that the desert expansion doesn't exist, but the desert does exist. Is that
Well,
Okay,
the desert
can we
exists
pause at, like,
in the
52
fact that
flat?
they
Sure.
have
I want to comment on this.
just
Hold on,
created
let me-
a landmass with nothing in it.
I'm almost
There
at
aren't
52.
any.
Yeah, okay.
Okay. And I want to touch on what Narc is saying. I paused at 52.
Okay. Oh, I'm 52
There is no
seconds, sorry.
content in this
Move up
desert.
a little bit more.
There is nothing
Yeah.
to test in this desert.
I'm
but
at
your video
52.00.
implied that
Yeah, me too.
I think Narc has a very valid criticism here, and Asmongold's like playing it down a bit too much. And like Asmongold's chat's also saying, "Oh, it's a desert. It's a desert." Yeah, but we've seen desert biomes in other games be more filled than this, right? It's okay to be like, "Yeah, this is desert. It's sand. That's what deserts are." But when you compare it to other games like Minecraft or like Rust that have really in-depth desert biomes with interesting things to look at, different rock structures, different creatures, cactuses, right? I
Yeah.
think Narc does have a point that this is too empty, and they could definitely add some flavor here to make the biome look real. It does just kind of look a bit empty. So that's going to be kind of my take on that.
Okay, I if that were like 100% the case, I think that would be right. But I think your mind might change a little bit because I did watch a little bit of the Stevens part. And
Okay.
this, I mean, we can just keep going to see what the reaction is to it. But like, in my opinion, even if it were just at this point, I don't think that's what Narc is pissed about. I think it's for a separate reason. Mostly that like this wasn't what they promised. So Alpha 2 was, for a little bit of context and background, Alpha 2 was supposed to launch, I think like phase 1 was like 2 months ago or something. And then it's supposed to launch in 3 phases. Phase 1 was like early network diagnostic testing, stuff like that. It was supposed to be like choppy and gameplay is not really anything. Phase 2 was supposed to happen December like 26th, 27th or something like that. And that was supposed to have like no progression and more stuff in it. It's supposed to be like a quote unquote expansion. And the desert was in phase 1, but it wasn't the expansion he was hoping for in phase 2 is what Narc was saying. And I think what Narc is mad about is that there's a $110 price tag attached to the game where it's like not done yet, and he sees it as like it's not fully fleshed out. I don't think the issue, like, because this is not the whole desert. Like, let's keep playing the video, and he'll probably show you more of it. All right, ready to hit play?
Yeah.
Okay.
The things that were advertised in the demo from 2 years ago.
Wait, so it's just
were
phase
not
2 of
present
the
in
alpha?
Right. Yeah.
Is
This is
that
phase
true?
2.
Yeah. Is that true?
Yep. And I would say, yeah, I'd stand by that. That's
Alpha
that's
comes
true.
before beta,
These things
right?
do not
Yes.
exist.
So if I look at
Okay.
it and I see the things that were shown in alpha in like this demo from 2 years ago, and then I look at the video that Steven's showing.
Wait, so it's supposed to be
right now of the
$110
desert,
bucks,
I feel like
not
these two
including the
things are pretty
subscription?
congruent.
Is there subscription?
Like,
There
like
So
is.
what things would you say
God
that
damn.
exist from both those?
Okay, hold on.
trailer from
Pause,
2
pause
years
it really
ago?
quick. To clarify about that, like, okay, so this is the desert biome. What you were looking at before was a picture of the edge of the map, or like a node in the middle of nowhere.
Valid.
So like, what I think, like, I can do like a summary of what Asmongold is saying later, but I want to watch the video first. The $110 price tag is for access to the alpha, and that'll give you pretty much access all the way into the launch of the game. So I think that Private Software talks about this later in the video as well. But the idea is that, like, because the game doesn't have a box price, subscriptions are what pays for like the game's upkeep, right? And if you're paying for alpha access from today up until launch, that's about like, they're thinking like 2 years. So you're essentially buying like 2 years worth of subscription on a way cheaper price. But you don't have to buy the alpha. The game's not out yet. If you were to wait 2 years and buy the games after it releases, you would be paying $15 a month. So like, it's not like you had to buy the alpha or anything. And he says that. I think the reason why people are pissed though is because they said we aren't going to sell alpha keys anymore after a certain point starting last year. And then like a month before they launched the new alpha, they were like, okay, we're bringing alpha keys back. And I think Narc said he was pissed off about that because it feels like they're using FOMO to get people to buy stuff. And whether that's true or not, that's kind of like a public perception thing.
Sure.
So yeah, 110 USD. That's right. All right, you ready to play again?
Yep.
All right, let's go.
And and what Steven's showing. What would you say exists, quote unquote exists? Is it the trees?
Well, yeah, the developed landscape that they showed in the trailer.
Okay.
And
Oh,
also,
yeah, I
well,
agree
like,
with that, yeah.
and you're contrasting that because you making the comparison in your video, that the comparison is actually the it's this empty desert. Because that's what you're comparing it with. But if you look at the video itself and you see inside of the game, it does seem like that's what the game looks like.
I agree that the rocks exist.
Yeah, this is the
rocks
desert.
exist and the trees
Okay.
exist.
So
Yeah,
so
now
but do
that's
you see
beautiful.
how if you do that and then you show this image of a completely like unfinished area, it's going to give people the impression that the entire desert is also unfinished?
Well, you got to
Because
use the
that-
context that
Yeah.
you've got to.
That was
gotta
the
acknowledge
impression
the
I
fact
had.
that
That's a good
Right,
point.
right.
Already made
Okay,
a
so if you
20
pause
right
minute
there,
video.
right, like
Go-
if we
Yeah.
pause right here, that
Yeah.
is like the main part I wanted to like. If I were to make a video, which I probably am going to be do about this, like Asmongold is 100% right about this,
Yeah.
in that
Yeah.
you're stoking. Like I feel 100% on Asmongold's side of this, but when he shows, because like even from Kuro, who hasn't seen this video before, and you haven't seen this before, that is the impression that you're giving to how many people have seen it now? Like 150,000, and some percentage of those people are going to go away thinking like, oh, this game is a scam, because that's
Yeah.
kind of what he said in the video. But if you take a look at the actual video itself, like of him flying through the desert area, it's filled. Like it has stuff in it. So public perception is like super, super important, especially when it comes to like pre-alpha games, because
Yeah, because no one has access to it. Only the
Right.
people that they look up to and the content creators have access to it, and people highly value those opinions because they kind of treat it like a critic, essentially.
and it's not
And
just
people
that, but
give reviews.
right, MMOs have been kind of in the like the pooper lately, because
Yeah.
we haven't had like a really good game in a long time that was an MMO. Like people are going back to playing classic WoW, but it's not like classic WoW was that great of a game or something. I kind of said that out loud, but like I don't know. People are doing the
No, that's
OnlyFans
fair.
thing, and that's fun. Like people are making their own content out of it. But like
Mhm, mhm.
objectively, in today's day and age, I feel like Classic WoW is not that great of a game compared to something else. And if you're like going out as the biggest content creator for Ashes of Creation, like Narc is undeniably probably one of the biggest that exclusively make content for it. I think that it was like really weird that he made a video like criticizing the game so
Like a
harshly.
hate post.
Right. Like
Yeah.
saying, "Oh, I quit." And then like everything is not good. Like the people who follow you who don't keep up exclusive with the game, who come to the person who makes the video once a month, they're going to see this
Yeah.
video and it's going to suck. Like it's going to suck super hard. So I think that's what Asmongold is saying, and if it were just like about that point, I'm 100% on board with him.
Mm-hmm.
All right, we can play the video again.
Yeah, I agree with
Coming
that.
off this section of the desert that Steven's
A
currently
good word for it
showing
is
off.
dishonest.
So that
I've
means,
already
Yeah.
seen it.
Narc
okay,
made a
that's
very
fine.
dishonest comparison.
So what you're saying
Yeah.
is that inside of this video, though, that context doesn't exist. Because like if there's a previous video where you've
yeah.
explained it, okay,
Yes.
okay, so that
I
then
assume- I
you can
assume
see
my
why people would be
audience was the same.
confused, right?
Yeah, I would
Okay.
assume that I don't reach a very wide audience, right? My audience has been the same 10,000 people for, again, 3 fucking years covering
Sure.
this game.
Yeah.
So when I make videos, I always assume that people have seen the previous videos.
You should never do that.
So
though.
it's like a, you know,
Yeah,
when
I feel like
release a
that's
thing,
not good either.
I reference the
That's
things
a
that I said
terrible
in the last
mindset to
video
have.
because it's
At least
always
put
a
a part
continuation
2.
of
If you want someone to
when I'm
see like
covering
part 1 of a
game.
video,
So
put
anyone
part
who's
2 in it,
interested
right?
in Ashes of Creation have already seen that previous desert expansion video, because I always
No.
I don't really reach an audience outside of my own 10 to 20k people.
Yeah, no, I can understand that. That's fine if you want to do that. But I think when you do have a video that does get popular, right? I mean, and I'm sure you would have expected this
Is it-
one to get popular.
Is it popular? I've not checked. I ain't
I
checked
mean,
mine
it's got
out.
130,000 views. That's really good. I
shit.
mean, it popped off.
Oh,
yeah.
shit. I'm gonna put some fucking ads on that one.
Yeah,
What the
me
fuck?
too. And so the point is like, so if I just watched that video, which is what I did, and I think also the odds are that every single person watching the videos is not, because and this is another way
Oh,
to
yeah,
look
yeah.
at it, right? Is that if a lot of people are angry about it and they're perceiving the desert to be incomplete, that would also imply that they also did not see the other videos either. Because if they had seen the other videos
Yeah,
as
yeah.
well, like you said, then they wouldn't be making these comments because they would know that it was contextualized.
Well, here's the thing. Here's what all I'm trying to do is make a video explaining why I am no longer in support of this video game. Right?
Okay.
I don't support the video game anymore because what they showed 2 years ago,
Mhm.
this doesn't exist. This desert, this doesn't exist, right? Looking at my stream,
I
I'm
see
showing
it.
you this. This
Yeah.
shit doesn't exist. What is this? Is this even an asset that exists? None of this exists, right? But when they showed it 2 years ago for a $250 price tag based on this, the current state of the game, you saw these reactions, didn't you? You
I
were
did,
there
I
for
watched
that.
it.
You
Yes.
were very excited. Did you have any impression that this wasn't the current state of the video game?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Because-
you looked at this and thought, well, this is you know, this is what they got, right? This is what they're showing us.
Yes and no. So like I've gone through a lot of betas and demos for games before.
Wait, 250.
And I know that, like,
That was
for
for the
example, like
Kickstarter
there are many
price.
games that have cut content or they don't fully show the game whenever it's ready. And I think also there are cases where like big components of a game are not being added in until like later on in the future. So I think if a game is in an alpha state, like every single image that you see inside, I think this is what your impression is, right? Is that every single image that you saw on these previews, you expected to be in the alpha.
Well, yeah,
Right.
they showed
I think
this
that's a little
saying,
unrealistic.
you know, this is the desert. There's many. If you watch that, if you go back and just watch,
It feels
that
like
whole
he's
live
kind of a new gen
stream,
MMO
there
player.
is no context in that live stream that this what they showed. This whole thing is just a concept. This is just the assets. They never once did they say that. They implied, they made it look like that this is the current state of the desert. It's not the current state of the desert. The desert probably didn't even exist at this point because the desert doesn't exist now. There is no desert.
Well, there is though, right? Because like if you look at the image that he showed, and if you look at it, you can see that there is a desert
It shouldn't be this big of
that's
a deal.
very expanded
it's
on.
okay
I
to
think
have
that you bring
valid
up a good point that
criticism,
like this
Right.
image and this specific case
but
with like
he's
this
kind of throwing
tower
a tantrum about
is
it.
not there.
That's what I was
Oh, no,
thinking.
no,
Yeah.
no. Not just that specific. I would
It's
say
okay to comment
everything
on
in
like,
this
oh,
trailer,
unfinished game.
everything in
We've
this
seen that
trailer
before.
is
A lot of
doesn't
companies
exist.
do that. That's fine. That's completely valid.
Everything.
Right.
Undelivered
And you'd be
promises,
hard-pressed to find it.
sure. But like to
Okay,
throw an
well, why
entire
don't you
tantrum
just
and make
pick a
a video
random
about
spot?
it that's hate posting and spreading that,
This one.
it's almost misinformation then,
So that's not not in
Right.
there.
especially with his
Okay, go
unjust
to another one.
narrative.
So and by the way, this is just a random. I mean, you realize that's literally one asset that's placed on a mountain, right?
Yeah, yeah. But they've sold the game based on this is the current state of the desert. We've got these dunes. We've got this, you know, what do you call this? Like a Badlands area. None of it's actually there. These trees, when they sold the desert expansion, they said that we could cut the trees down.
Holy, look at
you
that
can't actually
thing.
cut the trees down.
That's a
The
cool,
trees don't
like,
exist. You
scorpion.
run through them.
Those
They are,
exist too. Like
they're not real assets.
what he's saying.
They're assets in the
oh,
fact that
hold on,
they're
let's
there.
pause
that
really
you can
quick.
see them.
I feel like what Narc is saying is that the trees aren't physically interactable because in this game you can chop down every single one of these trees, and
Okay.
or you're supposed to be able to. Like you should be able to harvest that cactus, chop down this tree. You should be able to like mine all the mining areas, but Steven doesn't. He says this in a video that's separate from this one, but like the map hasn't been layered over it yet. The trees here aren't interactable, but it's like a mapping that
plan
you
to.
right. They plan to,
Yeah.
and I think like again, Narc is just jumping the gun. Is like, oh, this wasn't the state of the game 2 years ago because you saw the preview on it, and I feel like they have never seen. It might just be me because like I have been a dev before, and so he doesn't understand like the pipeline and how it works, and like there's probably gonna be more complaints about it down the road. But I just feel like he's just jumping the gun way too hard on this one.
Well, there's a big difference between a game that's in alpha and something like Cyberpunk, which was released with the same amount of like features that were missing and things like that, you know, and then they added afterwards. And he's kind of treating this like a Cyberpunk situation, like, oh, why isn't this working? Why isn't it like that already? But the expectation isn't there because he has the expectation of it being full release. And like, again, it's okay to criticize like unkept promises if they said, and I would need a lot more context for this, if they said that they're going to have these features in alpha 2, then he should be like, okay, they did not actually get there, and hopefully it's there for the next one, and that should be the end of the conversation. It should not be like this entire temper tantrum that he's throwing. But yeah, again, he's treating it like a post-release game instead of an alpha game that probably has like their own hiccups, their own development. You mentioned being a dev in the past. There are a lot of layers and a lot of nuance backlogged that he's not respecting, and instead pushing his like negative narrative first without consideration of the development team and like how hard it actually is to get this to everyone in these different waves.
And I don't think that like the I don't think that the way that he phrased the video was like very proper either. It's just like
Right.
If you were part of the ArcAge crowd, because I'm an MMO boomer, but
That's right.
the Arcade was a game that ported in that like they had an alpha, quote unquote, an alpha that happened in a year. It took a year to go on, but it was for an already completed game in Korea.
That's right.
They ported
Yeah.
a Korean game that was already finished and kept it in alpha for a year. So like if that was their expectation of an alpha, like it's way out of proportion for games that like are actually an alpha. Nowadays, I feel like alphas are a little bit more polished than this, but like it's MMOs are big games. Like technically Supervive was like in alpha for a while, but it ran really smoothly. The thing is though, like it's a much smaller game and there are going to be bugs. And especially true for an MMO, and it's just like your expectations are kind of set too high. And I feel like as much Steven did a video a month. He does monthly updates on Ashes of Creation in which he like tries to tamper expectations and be like, you know, it's an alpha, we're developing it still. Don't worry about it. And
That's
I think
already like a blessing. That's so much transparency that companies don't often do. So that's already like a green check mark for Ashes.
Right.
That's really cool.
All right, we can play it again. Ready?
Yeah. Yeah.
All right, let's go.
But you can't interact with them. There is no interaction with anything in the desert. The mobs.
There is no
are randomly
desert
placed,
equals there's no
seemingly.
war in Bossing
There's
Say.
points of interest. So the Riverlands
That's
is
so
full of these
funny.
points of interest. There's about 18 or so, 18, 20 points of interest. You know, they're pretty, you know, they're pretty fleshed out, pretty good. You know, especially the Tara Coffin. Tara Coffin looks great. But the desert is missing all of that. It's missing all of that, right? This is what the quote unquote expansion to the desert is. It's this.
So what do you like? How do you define? Because like I think this has been a big problem with the Ashes of Creation like development, and it's
You're not wrong, man.
it's
Holy.
wait what?
You're not wrong. The whole thing where what's what.
Well,
it's just
what
an
is it
alpha.
like? Yeah, like how do you define an alpha? Because like like I've played through a lot of alphas in games, and like some alphas are very different than others. Some of them will have like the entire game available, and there'll be huge swaths of just totally unfinished content. And other people will only have an alpha where it's a small slice of the gameplay, but it's finished inside of that little small area. And so like
so that's a
how do you
marketing
define
That's
alpha?
a marketing alpha.
Yeah.
Yeah. So Ashes is obviously not a marketing alpha. However, they have marketed the current progress of the game falsely. Another really good example is the Freehold live stream. Did you watch that one where they showed off?
I did, and you're talking about the rabbit
pigs?
mount where they're there.
Yeah. So the Freeholds, they're not real either. They've just been implemented into the game. There is no pigs. There is none of this.
And when you say
mechanics that were
there is none, what you mean is that the alpha doesn't have any in them, any of that system right now. That's correct?
Yeah. So,
Okay.
So currently, in the alpha, what the Freehold is, it's just a static asset with a fence and a house that's randomized seemingly. I'm not quite sure how I think it's just a randomly generated house.
Yeah.
Then you walk up to it, and then you purchase it for 20 gold or 50 gold, and then it's supposed to have the ability to plant trees, but
So
I
what do you
received a
think?
bunch of reports.
So like, what do you think is going to happen?
can't.
Like, so do you think they're not going to finish it, or like, because I feel like that's like a textbook example of something that they clearly this is the rudimentary version of it, and they're gonna put more of it into the game, right?
But what people are discontent about is the fact that they showed it 2 years ago in a complete state and in a seemingly fully functional state, and now we pledged $250 based off the idea that it was in that state, just to find out that 2 years later, remember this is a 2-year context, right? 2 years. So you'd think they'd be much farther along than what they showed in 2 years, and we spent hundreds of dollars to support it, but now it's seemingly only just being rolled out. But I think that's what a lot of my community are discontent about, and it's why I don't really feel like, what I feel like, Asman, is I feel like I've lied to people for 4 years.
I paid for it as well to play
based
that.
on what Steven said, and I feel really guilty that I've lied to hundreds of thousands of people because I thought what was being shown and what was being said was real, and it's not.
Well, it's not
And
in the
now I'm
alpha
like,
right
fuck.
now. I mean,
No,
like
it's not in the alpha right now,
right.
but it's seemingly not even being developed, or it seemingly doesn't even exist. The story arcs is another really wonderful something I was
Well, I mean,
super
like,
excited for.
I mean, do you really think they're
Why
not
does he
developing the
care
freehold? I
that
mean,
much
we have
now?
to assume that they obviously.
Oh yeah, they'll roll
I
out the
think-
freeholds. Yeah.
yeah.
I'm not saying that they're not
That's
gonna.
such
I
a
don't think I've ever said that
disconnect.
they're not gonna
Yeah,
develop it.
I think,
what I'm
like,
saying is I don't.
sounds like what
agree
he's saying
with
is that,
how
like-
they've sold $250 packs of the things that
That's a stark
making it
difference, though,
seem
'cause
like
now
it
he's
exists when
actively
it doesn't
lying.
exist. I
Or
don't
like
agree
pushing
with
a
that.
narrative.
Therefore,
Yeah, he's-
Feeling
I
bad about
decided.
lying for
"Do
4
you know what?
years? That seems like a 180.
Yeah.
that's
I
definitely
can't continue
jarring.
doing this. I
Like,
can't
if we pause it really quick, like,
Yeah.
I don't think he's like lying. He's like he's definitely pushing a narrative though. Like,
Yes.
he was upset that like the trailer that came, like, he's just saying the trailer that came out 2 years ago was too good, and he expected like, oh look, the game is pretty much done already, we can play these parts. But like, if you watch those trailers, it's literally just environmental panning, and
Mhm.
the amount of scenes that you saw, like, it's supposed to be a huge game, and the amount that you see based on the panning is not even like 1/10 of the entire zone.
Right.
And so like,
Yeah.
right,
He's looking at this wrong because the trailers are a promise at some point. It does not have like a direct date, like, oh, this is going to be done by now or whatever. It's just like what the game is going to look like when it's finished and polished. And I think that should be the takeaway, not the narrative of that needs to be in the game already for like Alpha 2. That seems like a little bit of an exaggeration, I suppose, or like
yeah,
wishful thinking, and just not being um brutally honest with how hard it is to make a game of this scale. Like you're saying, it's an MMO. Like, this is the biggest game like genre, and it takes the most production.
yeah. And plus, it's like, it's been 2 years. I get it, and I don't know. It's just like, he makes. I think what has really stressed him out, because like, power to him, he makes content for it like weekly for a game that's not even out yet. And it's not like they release a press conference every week or something. They have once a month things, and he tries to like squeeze milk every little piece of content out of those. And like, he probably just ran out of stuff. His expectations
got
are a
to
little
him,
too, yeah.
This got to him for sure. He's probably
Continue,
experiencing some
continue.
kind of like burnout too.
Yeah. All
And
right.
then like taking that frustration out.
Right. You ready to play it?
Yep.
Okay.
Fine.
Go.
Don't want to lie.
Okay. So do you think if the alpha was free, how would you think that would change your perception of the game?
Ooh, how would it change me? I mean, if it was free, nothing would matter, right? If it was free, then thumbs up. I'll be pogging out if it was free.
Okay, so you're primarily upset about the price of the alpha, and you feel like that the alpha, for the price of it, isn't giving you what you thought that you spent your money for. Is
Yeah,
that pretty
I feel
much
like
it?
what's happened. Yeah. I feel, just for context as well, is that I didn't actually pay any money.
Okay.
Someone I used to know actually donated me a key back in Alpha 1. So I've got context all the way back in Alpha 1, right? I know
Okay.
the full development. I know all of it, right? What I'm saying is, when I say I spent $250, I'm speaking for my community. So I spent
No, I understand.
$250, yeah, based on what was shown. So many people have approached me and just said to themselves, you know, I backed during this showcase because I looked at this showcase and I thought, holy shit, they are so far along. I'm going to
Yeah,
help
but that's your
support them.
choice as a buyer.
$250, just for
Right.
them
You're
to log
also
into an
paying for
alpha
that
that
promise.
is, you know,
Right.
this.
Okay. So do you think they're going to finish the game? Like, I mean, so because you said at one point that it was like fakery, and then at another point you said that it was not a scam. So like, where do you think the game is going to go?
So I think they're falsely advertising the current state of the game. Like 2 years ago, 3 years ago, whatever it was, they've been falsely advertising the current state of the game to make funding, to help fund their game. So what I said in the quote that I used was, "This isn't open development; it's funding at any cost." So that's what I feel like they're doing. They're trying to fund. Steven's trying to fund the game at any cost, even if they have to lie and show fake things that aren't real at the time. It's just a concept that's going to eventually exist. If we'd known that, if I had known that, if you had known that, would you still have the same perception of the video game from 2 years ago?
Do you want
I don't
my
know.
honest answer?
Yeah, go for it.
Absolutely.
He's so
I've
real
seen
for
how a lot
that.
of games have been developed over
Yeah,
the years, and I
that's-
think this
No,
is very common.
no.
So, like, one thing,
Really?
yeah. So I'll give you an
No,
example.
I don't know.
Like, well, let me. This is an abstract example. I'll explain it. So, in Warlords of Draenor in WoW, their flying was never actually implied for what the Draenor continent was meant to be. And so,
Right.
in the process of flying not being implied and flying not be planned for, Blizzard had a massive, huge problem that caused server-wide issues when they had to implement flying later on in a later patch. And what I understand is that the interconnectivity of different systems causes a bunch of problems that exist inside of an ecosystem of other systems. So when somebody shows me a system inside of like its own ecosystem, like for example the Freehold, and I see that just by itself, I'm viewing that as like this is what the finished product is supposed to look like. And I wouldn't necessarily expect to see that in the game immediately, because maybe that isn't contextualized and developed around all the other systems it's supposed to fit into. It's like kind of you're showing like a finished piece of a jigsaw puzzle, but you need to make sure that all of the other pieces around it also are finished in order for the pieces to fit together. So whenever I see a system like that that's not finished, and then the alpha, and I think that your perception of being disappointed that these things are not available, I think that's a totally fair perception to have, because as a viewer and a fan, you are hoping to see that in the game, and I think that a reasonable person could be disappointed in that. I do think, however, that it does make sense inside of game development. And like, have you ever done coding before?
No.
Okay. Well, I've barely done coding. And one thing that I've learned about coding is that you can get one wrench in the system, one bracket is left and not right, and then the entire system falls apart. You make one change,
Yeah,
and then
as a-
the computer doesn't work, or the program
totally
doesn't
feel
boot up.
that.
So when I see systems that are evolving, like kind of in real time that they're showing, they're probably going to show. Go ahead. Go ahead.
Let me interrupt. Okay, let me interrupt.
Yeah.
So we're talking about Blizzard, right? We're talking about Blizzard. And then like them showing Warlords of Draenor.
Well,
and the
no,
current state,
no.
and you look
So,
at that and you
so
think to
I was creating an example of something that. So the idea, the argument that I was trying to make was that when you implement a system into a game, that system has to seamlessly integrate into all of the other systems into the game. So a lot of times when alphas or betas for something like Warlords of Draenor comes out, let's say, every single system that was going to be in the game is not currently in the game. Like, for example, the Legion system.
Okay, let's focus on that then.
Yeah,
so
sure.
I don't think. This is what I'm saying. I don't think Intrepid were open about the fact that what they showed was not the current state of the video game. They, in fact, did the very opposite and said that this is the current state of the video game. In that very live stream, I can bring a context. In that very live stream, we had the devs talking about the fact that how there's this dungeon that exists in the desert, and it's this underground dungeon with snake people in it, and they showed those snake people models. They showed those models,
Yeah.
and they said there's this underground dungeon, it's full of lava, it's been crystallized. This was 2 years ago. So if they're talking about it in that
Wait, hang on.
detail,
So
then it
he's
exists.
upset that
Yeah.
But it
the
doesn't
pacing
exist. But
is
it's
not as advertised.
I paused it. Yeah.
That's like the TLDR.
Yeah, that's what
2 years later,
Narc is saying.
that doesn't exist. So what happened to that
He's mad at
underground
the
lava?
trailers too, which is something that I want to revisit. So
Dungeon
I
that
just
they were
mentioned the trailers are meant to sell people on the game and make it look pretty. Narc apparently wants them to be realistic with the trailers, which is not how business works. That's never how anything has ever worked. You usually get trailers like a year, 2 years out from a game, right?
Right.
And this is the difference between a game that like gets released on console and a live service game is you don't know what goes on in that 1 or 2 years or how much production there actually is. The game finally comes out and it looks like how the trailer was 2 years prior. But because this is an MMO, because this is actively being built upon, Narc gets to see the development side of things and he's not happy about it. So he doesn't really understand from a development perspective, a coding perspective, or even a business perspective of how companies run and how they need to play the game essentially. And he's kind of just like mad at that. It's like being mad at someone that clickbaits on YouTube. Like, brother, they're just playing the game. That's what they have to do because everyone else is doing that. Everyone else is already in the system, and Narc does not like the system, so he's kind of taking it out on Ashes instead
Yeah,
because they need to do all that. They need to make the trailers look super polished, and yeah, it looks like it's an over promise under deliver situation, but that's not how it is. That's just them playing the game that the gaming industry has always been playing.
right. And it's not even that like it's not done because this is Steven's probably gonna show his perspective later. And like even the things he's talking about, like yes, they showed a model of a character. Like they you have there's so much that goes into making a character, right? Like you if you make one NPC, you have to get the NPC itself, you have to get different variations of it. You have to like attach the AI onto it to determine how it goes into combat. If you add new spells into the game, you have to add interactions with those spells if you want to give them some of it. Like you have to attach it to storylines, you have to attach it to the environment. Like there's so much that goes into like you can show a character model on screen, but that's just the model. Like there's so much more that goes into making that like yes, you can show those off. And if you want to put those in the trailer, that's great. Like sometimes you got to make things move to sell it to people. So it's just like I don't know.
The League MMO is never gonna come out. Oh my god.
I'm pretty sure aren't they scrapping that?
They're not. They're making new concepts for it.
Oh,
They're backing the conception.
that's what I
Yeah,
thought.
they scrapped 3 years of progress and then have just restarted it from the ground up recently. They announced
Yeah.
that I think last year.
I mean, like making an MMO is super expensive and usually done at a loss. Like unless you're having WoW numbers or like crazy high numbers playing your game, usually like MMOs don't do too well, right? From what I hear. I have to watch a video about that later, but that's my understanding of it. All right, you ready to play again?
Mhm.
Yeah, I'm at 109.27.
Going on about
Same.
they
Actually,
were
wait, we ended up at the same, yeah.
saying
Nice.
things,
That's
and
crazy.
here's how it comes across to my audience, or the
I'm
audience
totally not
that
30
I
seconds
like to
ahead.
think that my
What?
audience are actually the audience who jumped onto the video game when you and Lazy Peon made your videos in the very beginning.
There's been a
Do you
lot of,
remember?
I mean, there's been a lot of people that have been really excited for the game. I mean, for
Yeah,
really,
yeah, yeah.
for a whole, probably like almost half a decade at this point. I think about it. Yeah, it's been a
Yeah,
long
yeah.
time.
No,
It's
like a full
crazy.
decade
Yeah.
at this
Crazy.
point.
So I like to think that people, that my audience, the people who I talk to, are those people. The people who come from you, the people who come from Peon, the people who have been watching the video game quite extensively for 4 years.
Yeah.
So when Intrepid show and talk about how they've got these tools that are going to develop the game extremely fast, and they spend an hour live stream saying how we're going to develop this world so quickly, and we've got all these next generation cutting edge tools that's gonna, the game's gonna be developed insanely fast. We've got all these biomes. Stephen makes quotes like, we've got cross sections of the desert, we've got cross sections of the forest areas, the riverlands, we've got the tabletop mountains, the badlands, we've got the volcano areas, and they're showing all of this stuff, but none of that actually exists. And now we're in a situation where we signed up to do a test, to test a video game that is so far from what they advertised that we're not even sure what we're testing anymore. We were fully prepared and understood fully that this was a true development alpha. We were probably the most understanding. We knew this. That's what we signed up for. But we didn't sign up for a desert that is not existing. We didn't sign up for a freehold system
it's
that doesn't
incomplete,
exist.
right? The desert is incomplete. It does exist. It's just there are areas of it that are unfinished.
Let's talk about percentage. Yeah. Let's talk about that. Incomplete. Let's talk about percentage of completion.
Well, before I get into that, like I'll let you get into it. But have you ever built a computer before?
Yeah.
Okay.
I built this one.
Yeah, well,
barely.
there you go, right? And so I think that a lot of the problems that a lot of people are bringing up are, like, I remember whenever, for example, like, I needed to get more RAM for my computer. And so when I got more RAM for my computer, I went and I got this RAM, and then I realized that it wouldn't fit inside of the motherboard. And then I had to get a new motherboard. But then when I got a new motherboard, I realized that I now needed a new power supply. And I think that the way that you need to make sure that like computer components fit together inside of a PC, and all of that fits inside of the case, is kind of similar to the way that games work. And so if you have a game that comes out and all of those features aren't readily available in the alpha, I don't think that it's
Hey,
really
Yops,
fair
how's
to
it
say that
going?
they don't
We're
necessarily
reacting to an Ashes
exist,
of Creation video.
because they might not be implemented into the alpha, because if you want to use the metaphor, maybe the motherboard isn't exactly what it needs to be in order for that thing to go into the alpha. And I think that's the way that it works.
Right.
Mhm.
I understand that. Yeah, I get it, right. It's an actively developed game.
Yes.
When they add things,
I wish they
things
would
are
be
going to
in the
break.
middle.
Yes.
But
They're both right
again,
about this point.
I don't think that's got anything to do with advertising a game as one thing, and it's not actually that one
They're
thing.
both absolutely
So
right
you
on
think
this
that you were
point.
falsely advertised to,
You
because
think so?
of
I
the
lean more
freehold
towards
system
Asmongold
not
than
being
towards
what
Narc.
it was inside of, like, let's say the demo.
Okay,
It's fair to have the criticism
okay,
that
yeah, let's go with that
they're
angle.
not
So the freehold system
delivering,
doesn't
like,
exist.
what they said they would, or like
the
what they
weather
could.
systems that were shown don't exist.
That's it though.
Granted, the seasons do.
That's like
like,
very
oh, yeah,
mild.
That's actually really good.
Yeah.
I'm really impressed with that they did the seasons. The seasons exist, but the weather doesn't. The story arc systems, the main thing that delivers
Being sold on
content to
something is
players,
kind of his own
they showed it in a
interpretation.
state that
Mhm.
triggered
And that changes
quests
depending on the
your
person.
screen.
Some people might
They
feel
showed
like they're
it so
lied
the
to,
world
some
was
people might
changing
not. So I don't
dynamically in
agree
real
with that
time.
point. So I also
That's
lean
what we thought
Asmon.
that they
But
currently
he
had
said
because
like
they showed
some
it, and
things
that's
that are
what
definitely true from a consumer standpoint. Like it's okay to think that way.
Mhm.
Yeah, I can sympathize.
Exactly. Sympathize is a good word for it.
they advertised. The server meshing technology that doesn't exist. There's no server meshing. There's no dynamic gridding. Well, sorry, there is server meshing. Let me correct myself. There is server meshing. There is no dynamic gridding. So they've advertised this whole thing that this dynamic
Yeah, he
gridding
won't meet in the
exists.
middle. I agree.
Personally, I think that's Star
I wish
Citizen
they would.
copium.
Mhm.
And there is no such thing as dynamic gridding. There is no such thing as dynamic server meshing. I just don't believe in that shit.
Why?
That feels like copium. Well, because it's technology that just feels like it's buzzwords that are trying to do something that's literally impossible. A dynamically shrinking and growing server. Well, show me it working. Show me it first. Stop advertising that it's going to exist.
Didn't they do that?
It doesn't.
Because the Star Citizen, they showed it with like throwing the ball back and forth.
Well, the people that they've shown that, but it's not actually in the video game yet. It was a concept. Again, it was just a concept. Sure, it exists in concept, but it's not in the game yet.
Do you think it will ever be in the game?
Dynamic gridding and dynamic server meshing? No, I don't think that's ever going to exist.
Okay.
I don't know about that one. I don't believe in that one. I don't know about that one.
People are saying it
You?
is in the game. Yeah, of course I think it's going to happen.
Really?
Yeah, of course. I mean, like, you have all kinds of different types of
So
technology that are
optimistic.
evolving. Yeah, no, I think so. I really do.
Yeah.
If you look at, like, think about it, we grew up playing Super Mario World, playing Super Mario
Yeah.
64. And
64,
now we're playing games like
I wonder how
Elden
old
Ring.
Narc is.
Do you really think that, like, it's going to stop? Do you think it's going to just
Well,
stop
yeah, or
getting
how
better?
experienced
Here's
Of course
the-
it's gonna
yeah,
keep
yeah.
getting
His
better.
thing specifically about dynamic server meshing. I just don't think that's real. I don't think that's ever going to exist. I think it's just an impossible technology that is just impossible.
Okay.
I'm well open to it being made, and I'm like, yo, if it ever gets made, wow. But until it gets made, I'm like, I'm not going to buy that shit. And it's the same thing for dynamic gridding. It's just basically the same thing, just done in a different way. Until it's shown, I don't believe in it. So currently, it still doesn't exist. Dynamic gridding doesn't exist. So that's 5 things that they've shown in live streams that they sold $250 packs off of that don't actually exist in the video game. So how many times do you have to be screwed? How many times do they have to lie? And, well, let's not use the word lie. Let's use
Dude, he's using
misrepresent.
such
How many
loaded
times do they have to
words. I don't
misrepresent the
know.
current status of their development
Because
before we get pissed off as consumers?
He's just
misrepresent
pissed.
also implies intentions. I don't think Ash's
that,
development
like,
team
question?
is intending
Okay,
to
so-
do that.
Yeah.
They're
it-
not
How many times
manipulating
are
the
you willing to be
consumer base.
like, you know, we play
Right.
fucking World of Warcraft. We're
Yeah.
still getting fucking, we're still getting screwed.
For me, my
Very
perspective is that
antagonizing.
I don't
Very.
really look at it that way. If I see a game and it's not in the state that I want it to be,
And
like, and
refusing
this
to
is
back
the
down on
outlook that I
any
have on
point.
WoW now,
Right.
is that if WoW isn't the game that I want it to be at the current point, I just simply stop playing the game until it is. I don't.
That's a really good point.
Yeah,
that's a really good point,
and that's
because
what you said you're going to do.
Yeah, so you used to.
Yeah.
You used to not be like that, right? You used to really care about World of Warcraft,
And
you'd play it, and
it
you'd
was
hate
it was
and you're like,
unhealthy. It was very
yeah,
unhealthy.
it is unhealthy. So what I've done is I've looked at the state of the video game, and I thought to myself, do you know what? It's unhealthy for me, and it's not what I want to do, right? I don't know if you saw those clips at the end of that video. It was like me dressed up in like some
I'm
stupid
gonna pee,
costumes
but I'll
and
still
shit.
be listening. No
Okay.
pausing.
Yeah.
I want to make. I want to make videos where I can express myself creatively. You used to watch my videos. You
Sure.
see my
Yeah.
intros.
No, I know.
I love that shit. I fucking love that shit, man. And I felt like for the last 2 years, I've been covering Ashes of Creation, and I'm like, this is not what I signed up for. This is not what I thought the game was. I've basically lied to a huge amount of audience because okay, let's not use the word lie. I've misrepresented the game to a huge audience, and I feel extreme amounts of guilt from that. So I want to distance myself from the game and try and pursue something that I genuinely care about, which is just making entertaining videos. And unfortunately, in the format of Ashes, I just don't think I can do it because there ain't nothing here.
I think at a certain point, I mean, you're not going to be able to do that anyway with any MMO. I mean, I feel like that's always the case.
MMO?
I mean,
Oh, no. I'm not going to talk. No, I'm not going to do MMOs.
Well,
I'm going to.
Well, I'm just saying, like,
Just
in
make
general,
videos.
like, I mean, this is like a YouTube content creator thing. I don't really think this has a lot to do with like Ashes itself as a game.
No.
This is primarily about like, you know, the way that you want to take your YouTube channel. And I by the way, I support that, right? I mean, I think you should definitely do what
That's kind
you
of
should
what it
play
sounds
other
like,
games,
yeah.
make content about other games, and try to hit
Yeah,
those
I'm
other
really
audiences.
excited.
And that's a good idea.
Yeah, I'm really excited.
My personal opinion, this is just like from my experience doing content myself, is that I think it's better to like kind of wean yourself off of that rather than cold turkey it. But you should do what you feel like you should do, right? More than anything else. And so, like, I don't really think that necessarily. I can definitely see where you're coming from, and I can see why you would be frustrated if you felt like every single development update would have been something that would be available in Alpha 1 or Alpha 2, excuse me. I don't think that that was ever really explicitly stated. And I think also the truth is that the alternative to the way that Ashes of Creation is communicating its development is the way that I think Blizzard does its development, which is they basically never communicate with the public at all. And it's
Well,
very...
you gotta remember that.
Yeah, go
You
ahead.
gotta remember that. But you gotta remember that Blizzard aren't charging $250 and slapping open development on their game.
I mean, I don't know about that. I mean...
Well, yeah, I mean,
yeah, maybe not a great example, but I mean, either way, I think that this entire problem is actually not even about the state of Ashes of Creation. I think it's more about for you.
No, it's not.
And
Well, it's not.
forgive me if I'm overstepping, but I think this is for you. This is about you reaching a kind of a fork in the road with your YouTube and wanting to take your YouTube in a different direction and wanting to divert. Well, I feel like this is not true at all.
That totally is what it feels like to me, though.
I mean, you did say that at the end of the video.
Is it
Like-
about me? Is it about me?
It doesn't.
Is it about
that
me?
doesn't
I don't think
invalidate
it's
what you're
about me.
saying. It's not invalidating.
I think
what
it's
you're
more about. I don't think it's about me. I think it's more about the fact that I don't agree with the misrepresentation of the state of the game. I don't think I don't think I matter. I am nobody. At the end of the day, I'm just a random content creator on YouTube. And in my opinion, I don't think what they've represented is accurate to what they've actually got, and ethically, that feels wrong to me. So I can't continue to support something that doesn't ethically line up with my ideals. Does that make sense?
You think Ashes
I don't
of
think it's
Creation is unethical because they haven't shown like all of the things that were in these showcases were not in Alpha 2. Is that basically where you're coming from?
Yeah.
Okay.
So the things that they've shown aren't an accurate representation of the game.
With the current state of the game that's playable to the public.
Yeah. So,
I mean, you know, like this is what happens, right? It's so, like there's probably multiple versions of the game. So what I would assume is there's probably 3 versions of the game. There's the version of the game that we're playing. There's the probably internal testing version of the game, and then there's the dev version of the game.
right.
And I feel like it probably exists inside of one of these other two. Like there's a friends and family alpha, and that usually a lot of people get friends and family alphas, but like they're like 99% of the time like
Well,
NDA.
it's funny because that's what I built
Yeah.
my whole channel off, right? I built my whole channel off of that exact copium that you've just said. I just don't think that's true. I don't think there is all these different. I don't think there are all these different branches where there's this magical branch of the video game where it's literally finished. I just don't think that's true.
Well,
I don't
it's
think
not.
that's true.
You're
And I think
right.
what the game is.
Well,
the game is.
You're right. It's not finished, but it's in a more finished state. And the problem is that before they want to ship it out to be used by the public, obviously they're going to want to make sure that it's in a place that there are going to be no problems, like different weird things that cause server crashes or anything stupid happening. Like if you play any MMO launch, like you know that there's going to be things that are fucked up on the release. And so
yeah, I get that.
like
No, I
being
understand that.
like
No. I get. Let me interject. I understand that. I get that. But how much further do you think is along? Do you really think that there's this build that they've got that's this developer branch where they've got all of this stuff here, that's this giant tower, all of these quote unquote assets? Do you really think they've got a build that has this, or do you think that this just doesn't exist and this was just a concept built to sell a $250 pack to help them fund the game in the future when it does eventually exist in X amount of years?
I don't think
Not
that
literally
it
what
exists
Kickstarter
in
is.
terms of something. Sorry, I'm away from the mic. I don't think that it exists in terms of something that's interconnected inside of the game completely, but I think that they exist in separate instances that are designed to be connected inside of the game because they're made in modular form. So, like, for example, the freehold system probably does exist. The dungeon for the desert probably does exist. Now, does it exist inside of a system that is completely connected with all of this, like, modular, like, for example, like, you have the portal that you can go into? Maybe not. So, if you want to use percentages, I would say that the game is probably 20% finished, something like that, on this alpha. And I think they probably have an internal version that is 40 to 50% finished. That's probably what I would guess. Which 40 to 50%, it's still not. It's still theoretically not even halfway there.
I mean, yeah. I mean, chat's saying it right now. I mean, we clearly don't agree
Yeah.
on this, so it's an interesting conversation. I completely disagree with
Yeah.
everything you just said. I think what
That's crazy.
I'm
Well,
not-
it's just like, yeah,
let's
I'm
look at-
giving you a guess of the numbers.
Yeah, I just want to make something clear, right? I don't hate Ashes of Creation. I got no bad will.
Right.
No, I don't.
Yeah.
I don't. I might
Random
not like.
Steven
I
Stray
might
as a
not like
person.
Steven as a
Goddamn.
person.
That is
but
personal.
I got no
That came out
bad
of
will
nowhere.
against Ashes of Creation
You
or
can
their
say
team
like
or
as a
anything.
developer
I wish the
or
game
as
the
like
best.
the
Right?
face
I
of a
want the game to succeed.
Not liking someone
I
as
just
a
don't
person over
agree
this is a
with
little
the
shallow.
current
I
state
know,
of things
that
and
was
how
kinda
it's been
crazy.
advertised, right? So it's interesting that we have complete opposite opinions about all of this.
Oh no,
But
I don't.
here's my opinion.
Okay, go ahead.
Here's my thought, right?
You
I
know
think
what? I don't really like Apex all
ultimately-
that much, or Kuro as a person,
the game is just going
because
to
he
speak for
plays
itself
Apex.
over the next few
The Steven
years.
Stream is the
It will.
developer. He's like the
I'm
maker.
just
of Apex.
stepping away
He would be like the
Yeah.
maker of Apex.
because
Yeah.
I felt like I need to at least tell my audience why I'm stepping away.
Why
That's
you
what that video
laughing?
was. It was explaining my
You're on my
frustrations
list,
for
Kuro.
why I'm stepping away
Apex
from
may
the
be
game.
a bad person.
I'm frustrated
Yeah, it
because I feel
did.
guilty
Yeah.
It's
that
okay.
That's why I don't
that
like
I've
it.
advertised something that wasn't true before
Marvel
years of
Rivals
my
eating
entire
it up.
life. So
Mhm.
I don't want to pursue that anymore. I actually want to go cover other
What is
things
this
and
list?
do things that I want to do
It's my hit list.
that are.
Do you
in
want to
line
move
with
it up
my
to the
ethics.
Stevens part, just
Most of my
for
successful
time's
videos
sake?
on
Yeah,
my
Because
channel
this
are
seems
not
to be
even
going
Ashes
in
of Creation.
circles too.
yeah, right,
I
it's
think we heard both of what they both want to say.
right.
Yeah,
I'll-
I've heard from enough from.
I'll do a more fuller part of it, but the next part is I'm at 1 hour 54 minutes and 42 seconds. Now he talks with Steven, who's the developer of the game. The guy's like, I don't hate Steven as a person.
Yeah,
That's
you know,
so
what? I don't
crazy.
really like Steven as a person. I hate that guy actually. Now that I think about it, that's crazy.
I don't even know who he is.
All right, you ready? I'm at 154.42.
Yep, perfect.
Okay, ready, go.
Mike is.
Hello.
Yeah. Hey, how you
Not
doing?
bad. Good. How you doing, brother?
I am chilling, man. Just looking at all this stuff going on with the game. Obviously, it's been probably, I'm sure, a pretty interesting week or so for you. And
Oh my goodness.
yeah, a lot of people, a lot of opinions, a lot of videos, and a lot of reactions. And so, obviously, I think that you probably saw a lot of like kind of what I discussed with Narc about things, and
Sure.
what like kind of the frustrations in the community are about just different aspects of the game. And
Yeah.
kind of like what's your take on it? Like, how do you feel like people have been responding?
I think the first thing that's really important is, I get a lot of comments from people that say I really shouldn't be responding. I'm the head of the company. I'm the, head of the project. Like, let this be a news cycle and go away after 3 days. But I want to give context into why I engage, why I respond, even if it means that it gives life to, the negativity or the claims that are not true, beyond the news cycle that might have occurred with just that single video. And it's because, we care very much about what we're doing. And I didn't start this company to be another, development team or publisher that doesn't respond and doesn't engage with the community. So I just want to get that out of the way first.
Sure.
My primary problem, and I tried to put this in the response, is that, look, it's fair to talk about communication. It's fair to talk about, things that we could have said differently or done differently. But the key takeaway and the problem that I had with the video that was portrayed was the definitive statements that what we've shown in our development updates are not real. And that is absolutely not true. And Narc has zero basis whatsoever to make that statement. And I think the biggest takeaway for anybody that's watching the video, as you had, right, is to look at him showcasing a section of the world that was at the edge of the map, that is in the dunes area, that is incomplete.
So is this part at the edge of the map or not?
Which part?
The part where
that Narc showed?
Yeah.
Absolutely. It's 100% at the bottom of the map.
So why did
That
he say it wasn't at the edge of the map?
I have no idea. I can log into the game right now with you. If you still have the game downloaded, I can port you to the area in the game, and we can run around together and look at the desert.
I need to update my game, dude.
I think I might have to update it.
Oh, you have access.
I do. I have the $250 pack. I'm an early backer.
But you can start updating it, and we can.
But I was gonna wait until May for
sure.
phase 3 to come in because I thought they were gonna wipe it again.
The point that's important is that the video that Narc made has 130,000 views right now.
It does.
Do you feel shafted
And
by
what
the
he
price
made
point, Hikaru?
definitively as a statement
Not
in
at
the
all.
video was that
Okay.
the desert that we showcased 2 years ago
I'll
is
tell you why
not in
after.
the game.
Mm-hmm.
I logged into the game and made a video as a response to you that showed all of those assets, all of that terrain, all of that, the cliff sides, the beetle bugs, the scorpions, everything that we showed in the video, even the wisp whelk mount, all of that is in the game. So definitively that was a false statement, right? And I think the key takeaway is why would Narc want to give the impression? He said, I made a video previous. He said that he made a video previously that had 10, 15,000 views.
This is back when I had a
But
job.
the takeaway is that wasn't the video that had 130,000 views, and it's not the video that got megaphoned into 500,000 views. And when people walk away from that video, they look at the showcase that he looked at, and then he would switch screens back to the empty dunes, and they didn't see any part of the desert that was in the video in his video. So they walk away thinking, wait a minute, why did you show this? This isn't real. But that's not true.
That's hella disingenuous.
So what Narc said was that basically the part of the desert that was shown, like basically you had promised an expansion to the desert that then didn't happen.
Well, the expansion to the desert is going to occur throughout phase 2.
Okay.
Like phase 2 just started December 20th. We are 15 days in to phase 2.
Okay.
And during those 15 days, the studio's been on break the entire time.
Right, because there's
So
like
it's like-
Christmas and like
'Cause it's
holidays and
Christmas
everything.
and New
Yeah,
Year's,
no doubt.
right. So there are 5 more months where we have been very clear in all of our development updates that we are going to be continually building the game.
Mhm.
That is part of what alpha is. We have said that. And that means that that territory will expand. It means that the tropics will be expanding, that the Badlands will be expanding.
Yeah.
Like all of those spaces continue to expand as part of the game's continued development. But what's more important is, and I think that this is a key takeaway, is the way that development works is, as you said, there are branches that exist beneath production. And to be
Mhm.
clear, production is the name of the branch that's exposed to the player base. So when a build gets completed and when it gets promoted, it has to
Give
go
me
through
1
different
second.
steps.
I'm having like effing
Yeah.
on my stream. It's like messed up. Give me 1 minute. I think it's like patching the game, and that's what's causing it.
It's possible.
Yeah.
We might be eating your bandwidth.
Yeah, exactly. Let me go back and double check.
Does he like move forward with this?
Okay.
I'm pretty sure he does.
Guys, are we good now? Do you know if there's a way to throttle the bandwidth that the launcher uses to download?
You might have to do it at the application level.
Okay. All right. Yeah, it's because, guys, I was downloading the game. That's the reason. It was like pretty fast. I think I might have to just do that for tomorrow because it'll probably cause other issues.
Yeah, they're probably. I don't know when the last time was that you updated, but it probably it was probably back in phase 1, so there might be some substantial updates.
Oh yeah, no doubt. I think that's what would make sense. Okay. Well, anyway, you can continue. Like so
what
about
I was saying,
the desert and all that. Yeah.
What you were commenting about the way that development works is that there are branches that exist in our source control, and we use Perforce, where other features, other areas, other assets are not implemented into the production environment. It's because they're not ready, as you mentioned. They don't connect to other systems. They may not be connecting to certain services. They may not be, QA'd not to cause server crashes. There's a whole bunch of reasons why those things might not exist. He used the freeholds as another example. In the freehold showcase, we showcased all the assets that we've developed. We showcased all the interaction and harvesting that we had developed. We showcased the housing and the furniture and the different mounts and the section of the Riverlands. All that stuff is real. But Narc definitively stated in his video that this is quote unquote fakery, which is a complete slanderous and liable statement to make. And he has no founding or expertise to make that type of a statement, which is, he also said that, hey, I'm just a normal guy.
That was Maou.
I just want to step away from the game. Well, then by all means, like 100%.
Wait, what's he drinking?
Like, we are
Is
not
it Dr.
anywhere near
Pepper?
complete
That's a Dr.
as a
Pepper.
developer. That is the
Asmund
whole
knows
part of this
what's good.
process. And I have said time and time again that like this journey of development is not of interest for everybody. The majority of gamers don't give a shit how a game gets made. They just want to play the game.
Right.
And that makes sense. I understand that. That's totally normal. But we are showing it so that people who do care, which is a minority of gamers, have an opportunity to have a voice in the development of these systems. So what that means is in this showcase you have here, the freehold example, we're showcasing how the freeholds have been developed thus far. Does that mean that they can exist within the ecosystem of Alpha 2 because they're either not connected into our networking system, or we don't have the icons and the UI to interface with the deployment of the buildings yet, or we're still utilizing the tax services and mail systems to facilitate that, the cargo, the construction of that? None of that stuff we showed in the showcase because it wasn't developed yet. But what we did showcase was the interactions with the harvestables, the ability to interact with the livestock. All of that stuff is real. And when you go into the game now, you can purchase a freehold. You can own that freehold. You have specific permissions to that freehold. You can create root balls through the artisanship system. You can plant those root balls. You can harvest those root balls. It goes into the economy. That is what we have shown. And the same is true for the desert. But my key takeaway is that as a viewer, if you're watching Narc's video, you walk away from that video under the assumption that those things don't exist because he definitively states they don't, but they do exist in the current alpha. And so to ask yourself the question, why would he purposefully mislead the visuals of the desert, not showcasing the parts of the desert that do look like the video we showed, if not to influence the opinion of his more uninformed audience? Which it's okay to be uninformed. Like I said, majority of people don't give a damn
That's like,
about what goes
oh,
into
he's
making the
nailing
sausage.
him,
We
dude.
understand that.
Oh, absolutely. He's
But
got him
we're
clocked.
not doing
There was
this
definitely
for
a
those
narrative
people.
that
We are
Narc was
doing this
pushing.
for the people
Brody
that
with that.
care to have a voice in the project.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, no, I understand that. So with the freehold system and like the way that that works, so the way that it looks like
worded that
in the
very well.
demo
Yeah.
that you showed,
Seems
like with
very
the
eloquent.
rabbit mount and everything, and like
Yep.
slaughtering the pig, like does it function that way? Like how much of that functionality is accessible right now in the beta at this very moment?
At this moment in time, with the freeholds, you can currently harvest resources. You can plant the resources,
Yeah.
and there is the Lightfoot Leveret mount, which is the bunny mount that you saw,
Yeah.
that you can acquire as well through hunting. You know, those things are currently in the game. And then what we're waiting on is the deployment system for the buildings, and we're waiting on the cargo system that should be attached to the freehold that allows you to bring resources to the freehold's location and store them at the freehold in order to construct those blueprints.
Yeah.
So that's still in our development branch, which is getting QA tested and some additional code to attach it into the node service, because the freeholds are expected to exist on what's called our node service and our zones of influence, because that's how estates are governed. So right now, what we've done to implement the initial freehold system is we've pre-placed certain freeholds throughout the world,
Yeah.
so that we can test permissions and we can test the planting and those types of things. And then once we're ready to implement the estates, which means it has to go through our QA branch and then eventually get to staging before it makes it to our Alpha 2 production branch, that is when players will be able to then place freeholds under the estate system.
So, okay, but like you can't, like, for example, like slaughter the pig or something like that now. Like, I mean, so like for like percentage wise, it's probably like 20-30% of like what was shown that like you can do right now in the alpha.
There are chickens and there are pigs that you can get if you have a tier 2 upgraded node farming station.
Yeah.
And then you can place those on the freehold currently as you do the trees and the herbs that you can harvest. And so the pig will appear and then you can slaughter it after a period of time.
Okay, so you can do that right now inside of the
Correct.
game in the alpha at this very moment.
As long as a node has upgraded to
Okay.
a tier 2 building, yes.
Okay. So, all right, well, that makes a lot of sense. And let's see, besides that, I feel like there was also the concern about basically the communication for like these different phases and how it works. But actually, you know what, before I go to that, you were mentioning a development branch. So
Correct.
basically, there is an internal version of the game, probably, where more of these features are available than the public alpha version of the game. Is this accurate?
Well, there are a lot of different branches within
Yeah.
our Perforce where we do development, right? We have an engine branch, we have an ICS branch, we have
Yeah.
a development branch, we have our QA. Like there's a whole bunch that has these that have these features in different states, that they're not all necessarily interconnected. They don't necessarily connect into the network or the services yet. That work hasn't been completed or done, right? It's still
They're all
in
like
the middle
modular
of
different
development.
things.
That's correct, right?
Yeah.
And so what happens is, as those features get more complete, they get integrated, and that is where the integration layer exists, and then they get tested. So a great example of this that Narc was talking about is something called our dynamic gridding, which right now our network utilizes a server meshing technology, which is currently in the game.
Which
and
he said, so he says that's not real. It's not going to happen.
Yeah, that's crazy. So if I don't know if gosh, I wish there was a way for you to log in.
Got
Oh, I
him.
can actually stream.
I think he doesn't get
Uh,
that.
I can
Like
show
for
you.
Let
if
me
you've
see
ever
if I
worked
can
in
do
development,
that. Give me one
there's
second.
always
I'm
different
gonna just
branches that
spam
you
a
can
bunch
push
so it
into
doesn't
things.
show
Like
our
you can, the
games
game
or
could very
anything
well
like
be
that.
like 60% done. Obviously, he's
And
not going to say that.
let me make
But
sure
like
that
the
that's
entire
good.
another
Let
region
me.
could be
I'm gonna
completed,
start
but it's not
streaming
ready
real
for the
quick,
branch that they put it
and
in.
maybe you can
It's
just
not
watch
like
me play
you
the
have
development
the entire
client
team
on
just
the
works
Alpha
and it's
2.
like 60
Okay.
or like
So I can show you
50%,
you know, the
51%,
different server workers.
52%. It's like
Yeah. All
they
right.
probably have a team working on this section of the map, a team working on this section of the map, and
Okay,
when
I
it's
just
done, it gets
started-
pushed into the main branch. Like
I just started.
that's
Streaming.
just how development
one
works.
second,
I
I'll
don't
make sure
know
that I
if
can
he
look
thinks
at
that
it.
like, okay, we finished the Riverlands one, now we start working on the Badlands. That's like they
It
probably
doesn't
have a
show
team
yet.
already working on the Badlands stuff.
Oh,
I am
streaming
on
from on YouTube.
Twitch.
Okay.
On Twitch.
Okay, good. I thought I was gonna have to screen share from Discord or something like that. All right, yeah, sure. Which channel?
Oh, that's a good question. What is my channel? Hold on 1 second.
Yeah.
It is Steven Sharif. So it's / Steven Sharif. StevenSharif.
Can you just link it to me? Yeah.
I'll do that.
Sorry.
Hold on one. Hold on 1
Okay.
second.
I also spell Steven with a PH.
All right, there we go.
Okay. All right. So this is in the dev client of the game. Is that right?
Well, so this is the production environment, which means this is
Okay.
our live alpha 2. You can
Oh,
see that
okay. So
there's
this is
a
the
bunch-
live game.
Yeah, this is the live game.
Okay.
But I'm on a developer client, so I can do certain things in the live game that you wouldn't normally be able to do.
Right.
So when he's talking about,
Can you
when
go
he's
to that
talking about-
area that he was showing that was like super
Oh,
empty?
yeah.
Man, I
Okay.
love this
Hold on
desert
1 second.
actually.
Yeah, it looks beautiful, right? And it's huge. Like
I love those big rocks. No, yeah, this is nice. I like the little-
apparently during the Alpha 2, like
oh,
they,
dev hacks.
yeah,
Hold
they
on
do
1
small
second.
things. Like
Yes,
apparently
no problem,
Steven
no
flew
problem.
around and pretended to be a raid boss and had people attack him. And he gave himself like a ton of health and started attacking people.
That's
I thought that was
funny.
really
That'd be so
cool.
troll. Oh,
And
I
are
love
these
that.
trees actual assets, or are they just images placed in place of an asset?
Well, I think that's part of nomenclature that I think
Mhm.
needs to be better understood by people who don't develop games. Right? Is like when you say, "Is it an actual asset?"
Oh, yeah, you're right. That's bad. So, like, can you interact with the trees?
It's a cool bird.
So the trees cannot yet be interacted
Okay.
with in the desert environment, and there's a reason for that. Our artisanship service is a very complicated service.
Mhm.
As you may or may not know, we have certain interactables that are mined materials, that are wood,
Sure.
that are herbalism, whatever. The way that works is those exist all throughout the different areas of the map,
Mhm.
and certain types of resources are supposed to spawn in certain areas. And so because of that, each interactable node that you might see, and let me just show you for a quick. I'll just go and show you in 1 second here.
Yep.
Each interactable object is governed by what's called our artisanship service. And it's a way that you kind of create this dynamic server grid where you pull as many processes off of an individual Unreal Engine game
Holy,
server,
that Thunderbird
Yeah.
is
and
kind of
instead
cool.
you have those
Yeah.
governed by
There's
a
only,
service
like,
that lives off of the
a
game
server's
server
only
and that
supposed to have
game
like
servers
6 of them
can't talk to.
total.
So for example, if I go up to this tree here, well, I
Mhm.
don't have the appropriate level, so it's red. Hold on.
Yeah, sure.
Let me give myself all of the.
Yeah, do a little bit of cheating.
I know.
Yeah.
I'm cheating. Let me toggle max. So let me go back up to it. So now I can start chopping this tree that I have a certain level.
Okay.
But this tree is
says
governed
leatherworker.
by an area that is under our Riverlands artisanship service. So the trees that are currently in the desert biome can't yet be interacted with because we haven't extended that service into the desert biome.
I see. So there's
right?
basically
and
like,
we
let's
and we
say
told players.
you have
and we
like
told players
there's
about
like a middleman that's like not available, so you can't do the interaction. Is that accurate?
That's correct.
Okay.
That's that's generally correct. So hold on, let me fly to the area that Narc is talking about.
Yeah. I want to see this part of the desert here.
1 1 second. So these assets are done. I mean, they are created. What needs to be hooked up is the artisanship service, right?
And once the
And
artisanship service gets hooked up, then all of the trees and everything will be interactable.
correct.
Okay.
That's right.
So that's just
So
one
as soon
step
as we
away.
get to this section
Yeah.
here, this I can't even move. Like I am blocked right here because this area is off of the map.
It's
This
crazy
is the
that he
edge
decided to
of the
show
map.
this part.
I love
Okay.
Asma's
Um,
reaction.
So this is a wall. I am stuck on this wall.
and can you just go around and like kind of show the just to get an indication of like
Damn, this guy's
like
Sonic the
'cause-
Hedgehog. He's so
I
fast.
mean the exact
love the
spot that
spawn
he was
tool.
at, but like is this true like pretty much entirely around?
And then this is what's called our node quirk. So the way that cities exist within the game is they can be developed by players.
Uh-huh.
Whoops. And this node has been developed, so it is a desert node.
Right.
He mentioned that the node is a copy paste of the Riverland.
Yes.
Hold on. He mentioned that it's a copy paste of the Riverland.
Mhm.
That's because the way that nodes exist is they exist on corks. So we have a number of different node layouts that are obviously intended that we are continuing to build, that the node team is building.
Yeah.
But those node layouts aren't fully online yet. So we use in these corks essentially the node templates that we have available until such time as the new templates become available, and we will replace these nodes with those new templates. That's how development exists.
Yeah.
Well, sometimes that's how releases exist too. I played New World. No, I get it. I understand. And so around the other area that like Narc was showing in the video, because I just want to make sure that like we nail down this point like 100% about it being at the edge of the map or not, because like to me it's like it's very important that like something like this is either true or not. He
has to send the coordinates that he might have been at. I don't know where if he has a coordinates, I can port to those coordinates.
Yeah.
But as I kind of like fly through the desert zone, right, there's a lot of it obviously that's still a work in progress because the zone is being developed. But the key takeaway that I have from the video is that he claims what we showed 2 years ago did not exist, and it does exist. It may not exist near the edge of the map or near even as you go into the deeper portions of the map, but all of this desert zone here, maybe not this desert zone down here, is complete. But regardless, like the point of that is that this is still in development, and we have been very clear about that as part of our communications with the audience, that not everything is going to be complete in an alpha, and that I know that can be a difficult thing to communicate, to convey, but it is part of our process. It is part of the development of the game.
I can see the chat
And
saying,
so
"Oh, but
part
this
of
is all
that
built in
is,
Alpha
like, he
1."
brought up that
But I don't
one
think they're
image,
understanding
and
that
there was
Alpha
a
2 literally
dungeon,
started
I
during the
think, or something
holidays,
like that,
like
where it
2
had, like,
weeks
this really
ago.
big
I
tower
know,
in the middle.
and I don't even know if this was in Alpha 1 because I was in Alpha 1.
So the Essence
I
Geyser
tried it out for a
is
little bit and it didn't go this
dungeon
far out.
where,
I don't think.
certain
I didn't play that much, but
monster
like
race that's called the Nagash live.
Okay.
And the
I'm
Najash are
surprised at
essentially
people's
sorry, not Nagash,
unwillingness
the
to just
Najash.
cut some slack.
The Najash are
Right?
the
There's
serpent
no
race,
slack here.
which is another development.
So the reason
That is
why
still
that
in
wasn't so the reason why that wasn't available to be seen was because the dungeon isn't in the game that exists in.
Correct. Yeah.
Okay.
And we didn't show that in the preview either. We just showed the Essence Geyser itself, which is an asset that we created. That's the top of the dungeon. And
people
we
who
showed
haven't
the
bought or haven't
monsters
played
that
the
go into
game
the
yet. It
dungeon, but
feels
those
like
aren't in the game either
A lot of
yet
the chatters are probably
because their
ignorant.
dungeon's not in the game.
Yeah.
Their animations are
I mean, it's a high
complete,
price
their
point, so
behaviors-
I
some
get
of
why
their
people
behavior
haven't
trees
bought
are
it, but
complete. Like there is a lot of it that's being worked in progress. And I think that's the biggest that's the biggest rub in my opinion. Is that it is easy to look at a development, and as much as we have communicated, which we have communicated probably, and I'm speaking from a gamer's perspective, more than I have seen any other MMORPG of our size in development with a following like ours, probably that I've ever seen. And I don't know if you've seen another MMORPG in development of our size that's communicated more than us.
I've seen the negative outcomes of them trying to communicate. Yeah, I mean, usually it doesn't go very well. I mean, like the way that the way that users and like players and gamers like perceive a development cycle is going to be way different than like the way that it actually exists.
And I'll be honest with you, like the biggest thing, the biggest takeaway for me about that, by the way, you're 100% correct. Like the biggest takeaway, in my opinion, about that is many people have said time and time again, when I've gone to DICE or when I've gone to, GDC, different conventions, I've talked with executives at other companies and developers and publishers. They've said, hey man, what you're doing is crazy. Like that it is, you will get eaten alive. And in part, like we know, that's the double-edged sword.
It is.
Right? That is 100% correct. That is the downside of transparent development, is that every single thing you say, every single thing you do is going to get picked apart, and not by people who know the process. Not by people who know what it takes to build these games, or even know what development is, or software development in general. And the best thing that those people can do is they sometimes can sell negativity, because if you look at Narc's videos, and this is not just Narc, by the way, I'm not just trying to pick on Narc. This is something that is true of content creators and influencers in general, right?
Yeah,
is that
he gets it.
There is certain types where they want to sell negativity because
I'm
it
glad he's
sells
showing
best.
more of
And
the world
Narc is a
too,
great
'cause it
example,
looks
because if you look at his videos where he's praising the game, they have 10,000 views, they have 15,000 views, right? They have something that is not the equivalent of the videos where he's criticized or where he's lobbed baseless accusations against the game, like his most recent one that has now 150,000 views and over probably 1 million views that'll get megaphone by you reviewing it as well.
Oh, sure. Yeah.
And he talks about a conflict in interest for the referral program, which, by the way, many products, many companies, many services have a referral system. But the reality of it is, if you talk about conflict and interest, for a content creator to be incentivized by ad revenue,
guys, the game looks so pretty.
Content that
I can't help it.
the most amount of views and the most amount of engagement. And if you're looking at the proposition of making a clickbait title, or making a rage bait title, or making something that's going to cause drama and get picked up and spread and amplified and megaphoned, like, if you are that type of person that's trying to build your channel, like, why would you not do that? It's no skin off of your back per se. You're not getting kicked out of the game. You can come back after a year, and now you have your redemption arc all set up and teed off for you, right? It's like, oh, Ashes of Creation succeeded, a year later.
I've only done that myself 10 times.
Right, but here's the part that gets missed by a lot of people, is that there are actual human beings behind the screen that are devoting their 100 hours a week at times to build something where it matters to us very much the public's reception, the public's perception, and that is why we create these things. And to see someone say something like, they lied to us, it doesn't exist, it's not in the game, when he has no basis for fact there, that is a super
he does kind of
hurtful,
sound pissed
sad
too.
thing to have to
Well, it's either something that's true or not at the end of the day, right? And so, like, if it's in the game, then you can show it in the game. If it's not in the game, then it can't be shown in the game.
Correct. Like, and that's why I made that response video.
Yeah, I feel like it's actually like a super simple dynamic, and I think that, like, I feel like with content, it's not necessarily always something that's negative. It's something that reinforces viewpoints that people already have. So, like, if people already have a viewpoint that's something, it's confirmation bias. People want to hear that their opinion that they have is already accurate. And so,
for sure. But I will say one thing to that, Asmund. I will say one thing to that.
Yeah.
Is while you're saying it's true, it's either in the game or it isn't. The fact of the matter is that some percentage of the 150,000 views that he's already garnered with that video will not see that truth afterwards. They will walk away. They may not watch the follow-up video. Right? That's how media works. That's how marketing works.
Right.
And they're eventually going to. It's kind of like that effect, where they say we have too many satellites in orbit, and eventually trash is going to start, hitting each other. And it's going to have this exponential growth of trash throughout space or whatnot. that the same is true for a viewer, right? If a person walks away with a now what you've described as a confirmation bias, with an opinion that they formed based off the video that they saw, and they don't get to see the follow-up, they get to go ping pong that on Reddit, they get to go ping pong that in the comment section of another video, they get to go ping pong that in the Twitch viewers, and then that spreads to other people. So to a degree, that is why there are libel, slander, and defamation laws that exist, because you cannot control what those things are. Now, Narc made some very definitive statements that are inaccurate and false. And I would be well within my rights to act upon that in a very legal manner. But I can't do that, obviously, right? That's not to my benefit. It's not what I want to do anyways, even though it defames and hurts me, and I can't control what that bias is. And now I'm forced to roll around in the mud, right, about the project, which is taking away from really what the focus should be
It's the focus
about.
on the project. Yeah, no,
yeah.
I get what you're saying. So, like, how do you feel about, like, the way that Narc feels about the communication? Because I think that there's been a lot of people that have felt...
Look, if Narc had made a video that said, hey, I think you should have communicated this better, and I think you should have communicated that better. 100%. That's the whole fucking point of us being open about the transparent in the first, the process of development in the first place. Like that constructive criticism, not going on his stream and calling people who support the game autists and retards and banning them and just acting like a complete degenerate.
Oh
right?
no, he had enough.
I'm not trying to make any ill will.
He is mad.
Like, yes, I'm super pissed about the fact that he went and made a video that was completely defamatory. But the reality of the matter is that we never engaged with Narc from a company's perspective as a content creator. Why? Because his brand was not the brand that we wanted to engage with about the game. Now, of course, that's a big conflict for us because he was creating content about the game, and some of those videos and content were great. But some of them were not, and some of them did not match what we wanted our brand to be. And I got a lot of flack internally from my own marketing and community team when I would even talk and engage with Narc because they're saying, hey man, like this guy is not a good dude. And I would say, okay, you know,
I mean, this is just marketing and PR people are always, they are so careful. I'm fully aware of that. And I think that makes sense, right? That's their job. But you talk about banning, right? And so there were a lot of criticism. This actually wasn't really even discussed in like the conversation.
The Reddit?
Yeah, people getting banned on Reddit for like.
That's so false. Like that's another thing that was absolutely crazy. So let me tell you.
So people aren't getting banned. Well. Like.
Here, listen.
They've diverted so much. Now it's just tea time. Now Steven's just talking shit.
Narc was in a stream for 4 days straight.
His
playing
turn.
at the beginning of phase 2. He was running a subathon. He was running a subathon.
Yeah.
And in the subathon, you know, it was a total hate fest, right? And he had a pretty solid like 300 viewers. Anybody who was watching can corroborate this. This is true. And those viewers were all just kind of, you know, hate baiting each other, and they would go on the Reddit and they would make statements with their Reddit, and they would say things like, "This game is 100% scam. What they're doing is fake. This isn't real. You know,
no, bro, this game is not Concord.
They should be shut down." All these types of things, right? And
That's
so
crazy.
over the course of December, there were probably 7 people that got banned, and the only reason they got banned is because they violated our respect each other rule. There was one thread that got locked out of 10 different threads that were about Narc. One
that
got
was
locked
the desert
because it was
one,
just
right?
a hate fest. There were like 7 desert threads.
Okay.
You can go on our Reddit and look at the 7 different.
And
desert
why do you
threads.
think there were so many desert threads? Because like it feels to me like that's like a really big point of contention.
Well, they were all
Narc.
The majority of them, I don't want to say necessarily all.
Yeah,
The majority of them, in my opinion, were from Narc's stream because, again, he was running a 4-day-long stream, and the desert was a big point of topic for him. Now, I don't know if that was a result of him being upset about having to shave his beard, because the desert, I don't know what might have exacerbated that aspect, but that is what I think caused it. But I have been a mod of that Reddit because it's our official
Yeah, of course.
subreddit of the Ashes of Creation game.
Was that like one of his sub goals or something?
It was
It's
handed
like
to
Kuro.
me because the person who made it
I
back
think he
in
made a bet, yeah.
2016
Yeah.
didn't want to be
Okay,
the
his is
owner
a
of it
wager,
anymore.
mine was a
So
goal.
after like 5
Yeah.
months, he said, "Here,
But imagine
you know,
like
this is
you
this
wax
is your
your
subreddit
legs in
now."
a
And I
maid
said, "Okay, we'll
outfit and then
make
just
it
get
the
really
official
mad at
subreddit.
Apex all
We'll
of a sudden.
engage. We'll talk to
Dude,
the
I'm
community
telling you,
here.
I have to
You know,
moisturize my
we'll make
legs
sure to
every
enforce
fucking
some
day because
decorum
it
as
gets so
well."
dry
So
without.
you're
and
saying
that-
that like if a
That's
person
his small
goes
thing.
and they make
See?
a post on
Now we
Reddit
know
right
Narc's
now
motives.
that isn't like
shave
insulting
it.
or like saying
Honestly,
it's a
a lot
scam or
cleaner.
everybody's lying. And
Well,
they
not
have
it's not a lot
constructive
cleaner, but it doesn't
post
hurt
about
as
Ashes of
much.
Creation on the subreddit, that they're not
Any-
going to get banned for
Kuro's
it,
mauled,
even if
bro.
it's
Time to start
completely
something.
negative.
Get on the
Any
Reddit,
one
get on
of
the
your
Twitter, make a YouTube
40,000
video.
viewers right now
Actually,
can
might if
go
it gets
on our
too long.
subreddit and they can look
Yeah,
through the
hairy
history
legs.
and see
Kuro
just
crash
how
out, we
many
need that.
constructive,
never heard
critical
Kuro mad at
posts there
anything.
are about Ashes of Creation.
Okay.
I would even say that a healthy,
You
probably
should come back to my
half
league
of that
streams.
subreddit is reasons
it to
why a
yourself.
game design is bad,
That's
or reason why a
crazy.
system should
Yeah.
be changed, or reason why
That's
the communication
self-inflicted
isn't
anger.
good. I don't
Doesn't
ban
count.
people at all.
You
Our
sign up for that
Discord
when
is
you
the same
queue up that
way.
game.
Like we
Yeah.
have, I have people constantly that'll ping me with feedback that's like, "Hey man, this is a terrible design. You shouldn't do this. The game's gonna fail because of this." I don't ever respond to that in a negative way. That's the whole purpose of this development,
Yeah.
is to garner that level of interaction with the community. That is what we have done for 8 straight years. It is a completely false narrative for anyone to say that.
Well, if I look at it and I look at the subreddit, it does seem like there's a lot of critical comments that are made, and these comments are not being deleted.
Mhm.
So
No, of course not. Like, well, first of all, you can go on to there are a number of different websites that you can
Yeah.
go onto, and you can see if there are any deleted comments.
Mhm.
Like that. I mean, that
Yeah,
is just a factual truth.
Okay. Well, that's at least good to know. I'm thinking about some of the other components of this too, and so if you're talking about, like,
and
yeah,
here's,
go ahead. Go ahead.
here's the other thing, Asmund.
Yeah.
It's like when you put these things into
I want to
perspective,
get
and your
Narc
audience
and
is a
Steven in the
very
same call.
That's
I consider
Scorching
myself
Earth.
a member
That would be
of,
fun. Now that would be
of your
content.
audience.
cinema.
I enjoy your takes.
Cinema.
I love
That's
watching.
right.
We have a lot of people in the studio that are Asmongold fans. I mean,
Yeah.
that's why I invited you to the Asmon Bald Guild
Oh.
when you joined Alpha One.
Well, I remember that very well.
Just to see what
But,
kind of gamer words get slung.
What I will say is
Because
that
they already
like,
did it.
if you put these points into
I'll go
context,
cook some popcorn.
look, I don't know what's going on with Narc. I don't know, why he's come to these conclusions that he has. I have assumptions. My assumptions are it's because, this is the reason of him wanting to farm views and engagement or whatever, and then maybe he'll do a redemption arc later, and that's like his master plan. I have a lot of different commentaries, but it is what it is. I don't really care. Only thing I care about is that when someone makes false and defamatory statements and it gets 100,000 plus views, and then it gets 500,000 plus views, and it demeans the character of myself or the 230 plus families that I care that are putting their hearts and souls into this game, of which I put over $55 million of my own money into the development of this game.
Yeah.
There has never been a dime or profit that's been taken from this company in 8 years.
Holy.
When someone says that, it is utter, and pardon my
Well, it's
French
gonna
here,
piss
but
you
it is-
off. It's bullshit.
It's
Yeah, sure.
it's
I get it.
complete fucking bullshit.
Oh my god, I came back at the
Total
worst
bullshit.
time.
Well, all right, I'm gonna ask you,
Holy.
I'm gonna give me the answer for this. Like
That is not
55 million. There's no
PG-13.
way you
It
can
is
make another
not.
$55 million. Like how much money do you think it's gonna take
No.
to make the game?
I've been making a
At
channel for
least
that.
another 50 minimum.
Well,
Like, I mean, at least
yeah,
another 50
I would
I'll be
s-
on the hook
yeah,
for.
Yeah.
Minimum. And by the way, we've grown to 230 developers.
Yeah.
That's not 230 developers in the middle of Croatia.
Yeah.
That's 230 developers in the middle of San Diego, California, which is the most expensive part of the United States.
Yeah. It's like a,
So what are the
And-
chances
and I'll
I'm
tell
from
you another thing,
Croatia?
All of
But-
Croatia
I'll tell
just
you another
catches
thing. I
stray.
take care of my developers.
Yeah.
We give
Croatia really went-
100% health
Croatia,
insurance
by
to
the
our
What
way.
is
developers,
this?
What-
their spouses,
what did he
and
say
all
fuck
of
me
their children
for?
as well. And that's on a game that's not making a profit.
That meme,
Right.
So for
exactly.
someone to demean my character like this and to drag me through the mud
Oh,
this
he is
way
so mad.
is
I
absolutely
mean, he has right to be.
out of
I totally
character
feel
and
that.
wrong.
Okay.
It is just wrong.
I totally feel that.
No, I
That was
understand
so
that.
funny.
I mean, what do you think
That
about
was
like
so
the
good.
6 years of the game being an alpha? Because he said he did the math on
I
it.
think I said this at the start of this development.
Yeah.
I said that we're going to make this game in a way that we feel is right. A lot of games come out and they get worked on in the dark. How long did Throne and Liberty take to develop? 12 years.
You mean Lineage?
And Lineage
Shot
3,
Narc
12
with
years.
mad
And
dump
by
on
the way, this is no
Croatia.
hate against NCSoft or their game. I think they
It
did
could
a
have
great
been
job.
anyway. He could have said
I'm just saying it took 12
Zimbabwe.
years to
He
make,
could have said
and that was
Timbuktu.
from an
Nah, fuck
established
Croatia.
major MMO RPG powerhouse.
There's definitely something there.
to
Something
build a
hidden.
game like that, right? And I'm not trying to judge whether or not Throne and Liberty was good or whatever. I don't, that
Oh,
it is
no,
what it
fuck
is.
Throne
It
and
takes a
Liberty
long time
too.
to make a
Our
game.
opinion.
Yeah.
But it takes
Everyone
a
got
fucking-
everyone.
it
I know.
takes a
Got
real
a light
fucking long
machine gun,
time
bro.
to make an MMORPG.
He is just blasting.
And multiply that by
He shot at
90
Narc, he
to
shot
the
at
level of
NCSoft,
complexity
now
and
he's
systems
shooting at
that we are
Croatia.
trying to
God
do,
damn.
which is fucking crazy.
No,
He's had enough.
so do you don't have like a time frame or anything for how long the alpha is going to last?
Do you know if I told you a time frame today and that time frame changed,
Uh-huh.
what would happen? What would happen? I would be
Well,
be
you'd
flailed alive
be
again.
lying again.
Yeah, you'd be lying.
Exactly. I'd be a liar.
Yep. Okay.
I would be a liar.
So you don't want to get a time frame because then you're going to get nailed down for another video about you lying in the future. No, I think that's
and
fair.
The other,
No,
the
of
other
course.
thing is like, how can I give a time frame when we just started our alpha 2?
Yeah.
The whole point of this fucking alpha is to test everything,
Mhm.
right? And before we go into full onslaught production of these core systems, we need to test that 1, they work, 2, players want them,
Yeah.
and 3, whatever we need to do to make those systems work differently, we have time to do that.
It's a
Yeah.
process.
Like that's the whole point of Alpha 2. So like
People think it's just a flick of a
again,
switch.
if you
Yo,
aren't
turn on the
interested
fucking
in the
trees,
development
bro.
process of an MMORPG,
Just turn on the trees. Let
my
me break
whole
'em.
recommendation is
Like that's not how
chill,
that works.
don't follow us. Check
It's not
in
a
a
light
year,
switch.
in 2 years, whatever it is. Get an average update every now.
Why
and
are the
then.
trees off?
But what
Just
the
flick
reason
the
I
switch
told
on,
Narc,
bro.
like, and anyone
Cringe.
else who was getting their tits in a twist, or excuse me,
Yeah,
who were
it is what it is. Yeah, no, true.
So
Yeah,
bad,
not
dude.
true.
who were getting their boxers in a bunch because
Yeah.
of the
Yeah, I don't
development
know,
process.
bro. My
Yeah.
titties
Go
are twisted
take
and
a
my boxers
break.
are bunched right now.
Take
watching
a
this
break
video.
for your own mental. Let
I
me
think
tell you,
Steven's right.
developing this game has not been great
Whoa.
for my mental health.
Yeah.
It sure is. I would not wish this level of
I've been twisted since
engagement
we
with the
started.
community, this level of complexity in the game development. I mean, you got to understand. I started this also 8 years ago without having any experience in development whatsoever.
yeah.
Just being a lover of MMOs and wanting to make something that I like.
Hmm.
Right. So like I had to run through the crucible on fire with my head on fire.
Yeah, sure.
Right. And
no, I understand.
And my recommendation is take a break.
Yeah.
Go take a break for your own mental health. That wasn't any dig on his mental health. I don't personally care about Narc too much to care what his mental health status is. I'm just suggesting to anyone that is too emotionally invested in our development process,
Yeah.
go take a break. We will be here when you get back. This project is too large. I have put too much of an investment. I care too much, and so
Yeah.
does our team, about its success for it to fail. And so because of that, we are going to do what's necessary no matter the time it takes. Now, ultimately, I don't want to be in a 10, 12, 14-year long development
Yeah.
cycle. But another thing to keep in mind is that when people say, hey, it's been 8 years, that first year we were 12 people.
Yeah, sure.
We were 12 people. We were 25 people the next year.
Do-
And then we were 40 people the year after that. We didn't start this development with 500 people on the side. I don't have $700 million that I've collected from crowdsourcing like Star Citizen. And
Yeah,
again,
sure.
it's no heat against Star
Damn,
Citizen.
Star Citizen
it is
catching
what
a
it
stray
is.
too now.
I'm just saying, like, this is
Yo,
a
keep name
project
dropping,
built to
Steven.
passion. And by
Who
the way,
else on the list?
Ashes isn't going to be for everybody.
Air it out.
We
Air
are
out the
PvX
dirty
game.
laundry.
Probably half the market doesn't want PvP in their game. Half of the market share of MMORPG players probably do not want our flagging system. But I understand that. And there's space in the market share for a game like us, even if half of the people don't like our visuals, don't like our art,
Mhm.
don't want our, mechanics. Okay, do we want to gatekeep the other half of the market share that do want that?
Yeah.
Is it if you don't like it, does it mean it shouldn't be made? Does it mean it's a scam? Does it mean that you should demean the character of the people who are putting their blood, lives, sweat, and tears into the project and make false statements that you yourself can be liable for like
Right.
that, Narc? No.
Well, so
If you want to walk away, if that's truly your intent, then by all means, walk away. Don't drag us through the mud in an effort to get views and misrepresent the game when you do it. Like, come off of it.
Holy.
So we could go back to this old desert situation.
Steven's
right?
been
About
waiting
it
to
being
say
an
that.
expansion
I
to
know
the
he's
desert.
held that in for a
Now, whenever you
while.
were talking about the
Uh-huh, you got
expansion
that
to the
one
desert that was
cooked.
going to happen on December 20th, what is that? What?
That's the nodes. That's the node.
Okay.
So these three
Yeah.
locations, you see this node that says Athanar, Sunhaven, and Asmara. Like those were nodes that didn't exist before the 20th.
Okay, so
And
those
so-
all
and
got
so
added.
now they-
and can
now
you,
they have
can you go to
nodes
one of
and-
those? Like, because I think you went to one of them, but
yeah.
okay.
Hold on one second.
And how many people, by the way, are on the server? Like, do you have any idea of like how
We
many
have-
people there are?
We have over 110,000. I think it's like 112,000 people now that are participating in Alpha 2. And on our
Damn.
record for a server
That's a
was
lot.
7,400, I think, on December 20th. We had 7,400 people on one realm,
Mhm.
which, by the way, for an Unreal Engine 5 game is. I don't know of any other UE5 games that have released that have been able to achieve that number. So if anybody else
That looks
knows
neat.
that, that's they can.
Yeah,
They can,
I don't think so. Yeah, I'm not
I
sure.
don't think so. So this is the Sunhaven node.
Okay.
Right? And this.
So this is
now-
one of, and this was added in the December.
20th.
Okay, so this
That's
is
crazy.
so to
actually.
say that like there
The
was
numbers
nothing
just
that was
hit me.
added.
About 8K
this
people
was
in
added.
Alpha 2.
Absolutely.
Right.
There were three nodes that were.
And
there were
there's
three
two
nodes that
more
were
of
added.
them
On a
besides
server,
this.
yeah.
On
Correct,
one
yeah, that's right.
server.
And they were encampments before
Nah,
this,
Rust
and they were
could
crossroads
never.
before that.
Yeah.
So anybody that played it, they can come and they can see this. There's building sections here that a mayor can construct.
Is one of them called
Um,
Asmarin? Because I think that's where a narc was in the video.
Asmrin?
Yeah,
Let me
yeah.
see
Can you go to that? Because like again, it's just about like this thing about it being on the edge of the map. To me, this might sound like some kind of like weird fixation, but like to me that matters a lot because it's like, was it or wasn't it? You know?
Yeah, that's
Mhm.
fine. The other key takeaway is that whoops, I got stuck under the ground.
Yeah, like,
Yep.
why is
Look.
this like Asmon's
You're not
make or break
You're not
point?
supposed to teleport.
It looks like it was near the edge of the
Hold
map.
on.
Can we be okay with that? He wants it to be exactly the
Here we go.
edge or not the edge at all.
This
so
is
he can like
Asmrin.
side better. But I don't think
Let's
that
see,
really
where
has
would
that much of a
the edge be? So already you
like
can see
claim in the argument.
that Asmrin is kind
Right.
of near the edge.
Okay.
Right, this is
yeah.
So he cares too much about if it was the edge
Okay,
or
and
not.
so it's at the edge down there at the bottom. Yeah, if I look at his map, it just, like, I don't know. I mean, I could, like,
This is the edge. This is Asmrin, and then this is the edge right here.
okay.
You can't go
Yeah,
further.
he's at the edge.
So if you just go, okay, so you can't even, and this is the case all around the map,
Yeah, at the
right?
edge.
Like this is like if
It's
you
literally
go,
just the edge.
You can see the map edge is here.
so
You can't go further than that.
Yeah.
So the
okay,
city
so
was
this-
at the edge of the map.
okay,
See, I'm
Makes
trying
sense to
I'm
me.
trying to like it.
Yeah.
It won't let me.
And
Okay.
the edge goes all the way around. That's how the
So-
edge
That's where
looks.
Asmrin
In a,
is.
That
But
is
But
only-
again,
All right.
the key point isn't so much whether or not he was at the edge. That's fine.
Yeah,
Maybe
okay.
He was. Maybe he was 100 meters off of the edge. I don't know. But regardless, the point is he showed side by side comparisons of our showcase from 2 years ago, and he said none of this is in the game. That is what he said.
yeah,
He
did
said
say that.
none of this is in the game, and that's bullshit. I just released a video
and
that
this
showed
this
all
what
of
you're
the, all
looking
those
at
assets
right
in the
now.
game.
This is it. This was added into the game on December 20th.
Yes,
Okay.
this was added into the game on December 20th. Anybody who's been playing
Mhm.
here, let me ask this dude. Here, let me just ask this guy. Hello, Mew.
Mhm.
Hold on.
Uh-huh. And this is in the live version of the Alpha 2 that other players can regularly see. you in.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. Hold on.
Okay. So you're asking
Wait,
how
Kuro,
is
do you
that-
have the name
asked him. He says
Hikaru?
since Alpha 1.
I do.
Okay.
Oh, and it's unique, right?
It is.
Whoa.
I'm the Hikaru.
Somebody else
Okay, I
saying
need to
they
get
were
this
they were
game to
there.
get Kuro.
Yeah.
I'm
You're
pretty
gonna
it's
play with
taken
me?
already.
Hell yeah.
He's so excited.
I
I
need to get that name.
no, I got Mao on
May
the
I ask
train
a
like
question?
a year
Alright.
ago,
Mhm.
and seeing it all come together, like I can already play it, but it's kind of
These
I
nodes
do agree
present
the
in
price
phase
point's kind of
1.
high, but it's like you don't have to play it, right? Like
Yes,
I don't
there's
want
no-
people to see an incomplete game
There you
as
go.
much as
All right. Well, he's gonna have
it's
to
for
check
people
his
who want to be
PayPal, right?
involved in the
Let's
development
give him a
process, is what
let's
they
give him a hat.
say.
We need to give him a hat.
Okay.
So unless you're like super invested
Hold
into
on.
it, I want to
Yeah.
be a content creator for it,
Boom.
which
Just
is
give him a
why
Santa hat.
like I'm
Good for him.
watching
Hold on,
this
let's
video. I'm
ask
probably
him
gonna make a
to put
video
his
for
hat
it,
on
and
real
it's
quick.
like,
Look at him
well,
dancing. I guess I'm big dog.
I mean, Narc just exited the sphere. It's
So-
probably gonna be a little vacuum.
And also
for a
like there's
while.
gonna be more stuff I'm sure
Now's a great
added
time
to
for
the
me.
desert as time goes
Yeah,
on,
hit it.
right? I mean, it's not like it.
I mean, what
They
kind
had
of
to
a
be
question is
leveled.
that, Asmund? You
Okay.
know that. Come on, like
Yeah,
we're
well, I mean,
building the game.
well, it's just yeah, but like I'm leading it because like that's
Yeah, there's
like,
a guy
these
in
are
the
what
chat
the
that's like just
concerns
quacking.
are, right? And I
yeah, that's
Oh, they're
true.
all quacking now.
and so like that's really I'm not really like obvious like let's be real, fucking obviously it's not like you're gonna have a bunch of random mobs out there doing nothing, right? 100%.
Correct. Yes.
Yeah, of course.
Here, This
okay.
is a mayor. Oh, come on. Why didn't this dude put his hat on?
Yeah. Maybe he doesn't know how.
I'm gonna say, put your hat on.
Mm-hmm.
Oh man. Yes, absolutely. I mean, that is the
Yeah.
whole point of. Oh, look, he did. He put his hat on.
There
So
it
that's a
is.
Santa hat. Boom.
That's nice.
Thank you. Thanks, brother. Appreciate that, Mew.
About a week late, but it's okay.
For real.
So that's going on. You've got all of the so this is the desert. They did add new stuff into the second phase with these 3 nodes and the desert being expanded, and with like the dungeon and all of that, I'm sure that'll probably get added
Even
into the
after all that
future too.
negativity, though,
I feel like a
Asmund
lot of
still
dungeon?
edges out.
Which dungeon?
the
Yeah.
one that had
Classic
that
expression.
I forgot the term
Any
that you
publicity is
used
good
for it.
publicity.
Oh, the Najosh
People
dungeon.
walk
Yes,
away like
the
all this
Josh
game's
dungeon.
whatever.
Yeah.
But the thing is,
Absolutely. So we
a
just
lot of
added the
people
Befallen
will
Forge
have their
dungeon,
first,
Uh-huh.
which
like,
is
people that don't know about
like
the
a bunch of
game yet will
undead
experience it.
dwarves that are
Okay.
and then
governed
know of
by a
Ashes.
Dracolich,
That's
basically.
good.
Right.
That's
This
potential new
is hold on one
players,
second.
potential
I'll do
buyers
this real
eventually,
quick here.
or even right now.
Right. So it's like he's using this chance. I can kind of see what Steven's doing. He's
This
like,
is
I'm
the
going to showcase all the
Forge
cool parts of the
dungeon.
game.
That's right.
Well,
Which
I have
just
Asmund
got
on
added
stream.
in December 20th
Yeah,
as well.
that's
There's a
exactly
little
what I'm
party
thinking
here.
is going on
That's
here.
probably
That's
trying
why
to do thing.
I
So it's
thought
an
of it.
outdoor dungeon.
No, this is an indoor dungeon.
Oh,
Now he's
so
just
I mean
flexing.
a non-instanced.
Oh yeah, no, not the vast majority of all of our
Okay.
content in game is open world. Like
Okay.
the whole point of a PVX, game
Yeah,
that we're
sure.
trying to build is contested, zones and whatnot.
What is PVX?
So
Player
that
versus
there
environment.
are
Like Black
good
Desert
spots.
or whatever.
It's
Yeah,
like
no,
PvP
I get
mixed
it.
with
there are good
PvE.
spots to XP.
So
there's,
like, if
rare
you're trying to
drops,
do a
whatever,
dungeon in Final Fantasy
Yeah,
or
yeah.
like in World of Warcraft,
that
no one
that
can
are
stop you
available.
from
There's
doing the
another group.
dungeon, right?
Mm-hmm.
In
Yeah.
this game, if you're
Okay,
trying to do a
there's
dungeon or a
little puzzle
raid
down here
with
that
like
you
50
can
people,
succeed
another
at
group
to
of
get to
50 people can
cross.
come in and try to kill you.
But yeah, so
And,
it's
like,
all
take your
open world.
stuff.
In the dungeon you're talking about, the Najosh dungeon that has that Essence
Wait, that's
Geyser.
kind of dumb.
The Essence Geyser
It
asset is
just makes
complete,
like the
but
entire world contested. There are
asset
safe
kit that's
zones,
used to actually
and
build
there's
the
like a
interior
lot
of
of
that dungeon is obviously something that we're still working on.
Okay.
The Najosh.
there's like a lot of
monsters
it's
and
a
whatnot
completely
that,
different dynamic
worked
from like
on, those
WoW
models
and
we've
Final
shown.
Fantasy.
That's
Yeah.
the whole point of our development
That is
update
very much like
that we
Rust.
do every
Yeah.
single month.
Usually you,
right?
like,
the whole
in-
part of us showing
In
all
Arcade,
of
you had
these
like a
assets
player
getting
that usually
created,
does scouting, or like a player
all
that
of
usually
the-
like keeps
all
watch.
of the world being
There's like
built and
mechanics to keep
monsters being
you
constructed,
like grouped
that's
up
the
together.
fun of that.
There's a lot of different dynamics that are just different.
The whole point of that is so that we
Yeah.
can get player feedback
Another one is Sea of
before we
Thieves.
move
It's kinda
into
like
mass
that too.
production,
Sea of
which is
Thieves
an
also,
alien
like, you have to
idea
pay
for
attention
many
to
Yeah, yeah.
everything,
for
and
many
while you're doing
developers, for
something,
many
you can get
publishers,
countered.
because of
Right.
course you
And they
can
can
run
kill you and
into
take your stuff too.
situations like
It's
the one we're
hardcore.
currently in.
Not for everyone,
which
but
is
definitely
where, hey,
for the most
a
devoted
lot of
players.
people
Right.
who are witnessing the
I'm
game
really
that
into
are very,
that stuff.
we have millions of registered users that are interested in Ashes of Creation, because for 8 years we've been
Mhm.
very public about its development, which is a good thing. That's the good side of the sword, is that we don't have to spend any money on advertising, we don't have to spend any money on marketing. There is a cost that comes with us needing to each month kind of prepare something to be shown to the public. That's why we have a community team. That's why we have
Yeah, sure.
Margaret, who
Margaret,
heads up that team, right, in the communications team. And a lot of development teams don't like having to kind of, to essentially having that exposure
To do
when
regular
something's
updates,
undone.
because there's
Yeah.
also like there's a degree of accountability with it. No, I can easily
Absolutely,
see that.
absolutely. And the biggest concern is that like
Mhm.
something changes and the community puts you on a flail for it,
Yeah, of course.
right? Where it's like,
Yeah.
oh, you promised this and now it's not a thing anymore. Well, the whole gambit, the whole gamble of this approach is that we can be open about the changes, and we can foster some degree of understanding from our community when those changes happen for the game. Like,
Yeah.
isn't that what we want to see, rather than getting
Yo,
something we
welcome
had
in,
no
Nerd.
idea about
And
on
Neil,
day
thank you for the
one,
follows, you guys.
hating it, and then the game fails, and now boom, that game is gone.
Yeah.
Like, they can't go back and they can't fix it, right? Because they've already put $300 million into creating what it was.
Yeah.
And for them to go back and fix it, it's going to cost another 100 million or another 150 million in order to do it.
Right.
So, like, to that degree, you're mitigating risk on the side of the open development in exchange for the risk of landing something that people didn't ask for or don't want, right? Well,
Yeah.
in my opinion, it's worth this risk that is now being realized in the communications department. That's a problem, right? And instead, what we're mitigating is the risk that we land on day one without an audience that gives a fuck to play the game.
Yeah, sure. Of course, right? Because like that at that point, it's like you're gonna have people that, like, if you develop in the wrong direction, you go too far in that direction, you can't change course, and like then you're kind of stuck there.
Correct.
Like
That's
I've seen
correct.
a lot of games that have ended up being in that position.
That's absolutely
Yeah.
right. And let me tell you another big thing. One other thing that is really sets my bullshit radar off.
Okay.
God, he's still
He
going.
says, that he
Dude,
doesn't
run it
agree with the
back.
pricing.
Yeah, yeah. That was the big
and-
thing I wanted to talk about. Yeah.
No, absolutely. And
Okay.
that's totally fine. Like, this is specifically priced in part to restrict the number of people who are participating in this alpha, because it's not for everybody. In addition, we have to pay for servers to host at a minimum 1 year's worth of time that our alpha is going to be live.
Mhm.
And that $100 goes to pay for that 1 year's worth of what would normally be a subscription.
Sure.
1 year's worth of what must normally be a subscription. So how much, what does that come out to? And then on top of that, we're giving 1 month subscription with it, and we're also giving access to all the betas. So I get it. People don't want to pay that money. That's fine. We literally tell people, do not buy the alpha. This is not a game. This is not for you. You will lose nothing by not participating in our alpha. The game will launch and you cannot pay a box price for it. We don't even have a box price, which is, in my opinion, the best monetization model.
Well, that's the
We are
biggest
just
like
subscription.
injection. Yeah, of course.
Correct. So anybody that goes out there and says this is a scam, I am telling you that this game that I've sunk 55 million or more dollars into over the course of the last 8 years,
So far.
myself personally,
Yeah.
so far, and will have to put in another 50 probably.
Yeah.
That
Yeah,
you
Steven's
should
a
not buy the game.
billionaire or
And we have a
something.
90-day refund policy on these $100 alpha keys,
Yeah.
and we do not have a minimum time requirement if people want a refund.
Uh-huh.
If you want a refund and you go in and you play this and you play our alpha and you test our alpha and you test it for 10 hours, 15 hours, we are granting those refunds because we don't want people to be upset about that. So it is total fucking bullshit that what the statements that the way he represented us and the game in his video. And again, I don't want to pick on Narc. Like, okay, dude,
Sure.
go
yeah.
play another game. Go enjoy your
Play
content
Dark
creator
Souls.
career.
Yeah.
Go play Dark Souls. Do you? This is your life, brother. You go
Brother.
do you.
Brother.
But you left, you lit a match, and you threw it behind you, and you said, fuck you, Steven, fuck you, Ashes,
Oh
and
my
fuck you,
God.
developers. And that's fucked up.
Yeah, that's a
It
good
is.
plan.
Well, I
W Steven.
baby.
I feel like there's a lot of development
That's what I've been
teams
waiting
that
for,
feel
that's
that
what it's
way,
all about.
and just from like my own personal opinion, I wish that more development teams would communicate honestly, rather than go through like 8 layers of PR bullshit, because it's like you don't really know what somebody's thinking. You're not having an honest conversation. It's a bunch of fakery. For sure. No, I do really appreciate you coming on and talking about it and everything. Like I really do. And I'm sure it puts you in a weird position, especially with like the people in your
Yeah, I
team,
don't wanna-
etc. But
I don't want to be in this position.
Yeah,
Like,
I know, yeah.
this is not why this is not why I've devoted
yeah,
8
yeah,
years of my life to building this game. I don't want to be here talking about drama.
yeah,
I don't like drama. You don't like drama. I don't like drama. The community probably loves the drama, but I do not. I'm sure it's entertaining, but it's not why we're
Yeah.
doing what we're doing.
Uh-huh.
I get it. I get it's entertaining. I get that it
Yeah.
sells. And I know that it's some level of exposure, but I just want to make a great game.
Mhm.
That's all I want to do. Oh, there's one other thing.
Yeah.
that was in our video here. Hold on. Let me...
Yeah, no, if there's anything else you
my-
want to cover, like
Yeah.
I'm
Is there
ready
anything
to
else
see
you
it.
want to say, Steven,
hear it or
about
whatever.
Narc? Go ahead.
I just
Yeah.
got a
Got the
message
floor.
that was
Here's the
like, hey, you should
microphone.
just show the snail.
Okay.
Because that was in the desert video.
Really
Yeah,
let
it
him
was.
have it.
This is our snail.
That's the mount, right? The blue one?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
It's a very rare snail.
Okay.
Its name is a wisp whelk. And you can walk around on the wisp whelk. I'm going a little fast. Hold
Okay, so this is the one exactly from the video. Yeah.
on. Yep. And not only that, the snail is a little horse snail. We call it a snorse. Right? It still
Yeah.
has some textures that need to be added. It's missing some mats that I think
Yeah.
unfortunately got stomped when we did a master material update
I think it's disgusting.
on the saddle.
I hate snails.
But you can take the snail
Aw.
and you can press period here and it'll turn into a little snail.
I
Oh
love
shit,
snails.
okay.
I love the
So it's like a
little
mount,
stocky
like
and then,
special.
and then you can
yeah.
just
What
oh shit
the-
no!
I've poured salt
oh,
on
I killed
snails
the fucking
before.
snail. God damn
You
it.
motherfucker.
Oh wow,
I'm gonna
so
put
there's like
salt
two
on
different
you.
movement types
Yeah,
I
has two
love
different
salt.
types.
outside of that guy attacking you.
Yeah, that's sad.
Okay, well yeah, that no,
There's,
that's cool.
there's one other thing,
Yeah.
by the way.
Uh-huh.
Pirate Software Thor.
Yeah.
He's been playing the game a lot. I know that he's a big proponent of it. We definitely have a lot of systems that are mirrored off of the way that Eve's economy and like Zero Sec Space and stuff have been architected. We have a lawless zone. We have
Yeah.
we have
Wow, you don't think you have to follow.
territory in the open seas that are kind of similar to Zero Sec. And a lot of the things that Narc said about Pirate are just totally unfair and demeaning as well. And I think that it's important. The biggest takeaway that
He
I
attacked
have when
Pirate,
it comes to
dude?
these types of interactions
Mhm.
is that we're all part of the same ecosystem and genre of player groups.
Yeah.
We have all I went on your show back in 2020 when I was driving to Vegas, and I made the statement that as an MMO player, we all feel like a bunch of beaten dogs.
Yeah, I remember
And-
this. Yeah.
And that is still to this day very true, and we all know this because of some of the games that have recently released.
Yeah.
But what I will say is that there is some level of camaraderie that should be had within our community as MMORPG gamers, because the only way that we're going to get games that answer the calls of things that we want, which is not gotcha quality of life bullshit monetization, which is not pay to win, which is not undermining the player achievement in game and integrity. Like, those are the core
Closes
tenets
his
that I
weathering
think are most
waves.
important when it comes to actually bringing in an MMORPG to today's market, that I think a lot of developments and a
Yeah.
lot of publishers are still getting wrong.
Oh yeah, of course.
And we can be supportive of each other. The tribalism doesn't need to exist. A game doesn't need to call to you aesthetically, visually, or mechanically in order for you to say, hey, I wish that game does well.
Yeah.
I
sure.
wish that game finds an audience.
I think a lot
I
of people. Well, the reason why I think a lot of people do it is that they, and this is especially true with gacha games, is like they're terrified of their gacha game going end of service and like all of their waifus going into the void, right? And like it's the same thing with MMOs, where it's like, well, I don't want to have this game die because this item that I spent 1,000 hours farming isn't going to matter anymore. I think that's the real reason why you
It's
see a lot of the
sunk cost
tribals.
fallacy.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, for sure. Absolutely. Yes. No, I mean, you're 100% correct. What I'm trying to do is I'm trying to speak to the better part of humanity,
Yeah.
which is different than that. Hey, look, you may have a sunk cost, but in order for that sunk cost to feel better, there can be something else on the horizon for
Mhm.
you to move to. And those
Yeah.
things will be less if you shit on them.
Yeah, sure.
Like there will be less opportunity if you shit on it. The reason why people say the MMORPG genre is a dying genre is in part our own culpability. We
Yeah.
as an audience have some level of responsibility to be supportive of the people who are trying to push the bounds. And I'm not saying for people to come and support me. I will do this on my own. Okay, that is okay. You can watch, and when the game comes out, if it's for you, please come and join us.
Yeah.
But we can still be supportive of each
Yeah.
other, and it doesn't need to be a light a match and stroke the fire because you get some views.
No, there it is. Well, hopefully, I mean, I think that I agree with you there. I mean, I feel like that's why I wanted to have the conversation with like you and also Narc, is because I feel like at the end of the day, almost everybody really does want the same thing. And so it's like, why is there this much animosity and hostility over people that effectively agree with each other? It's a very, very weird dynamic, right? And so I do hope that, like, you know, more honest conversations like this and everything do really kind of help people get that better understanding.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean,
Hey, look, it's
I do,
Thor.
yeah.
We found
Oh, there
Thor.
he is. There is the guy. Or, oh shit.
He's flying around on his
Yeah.
little thunder wing.
Oh, he's got a flying mount too. Oh,
He's
shit.
a mayor. He's a mayor of one of the nodes.
Yeah, there you go.
So
There you go.
He,
There you go. That's a nice mount too.
it is pretty cool. It's a
Yeah.
sweet mount.
I think that's the,
Well, look,
the
man,
majority of the
I
part
really
I wanted
appreciate you coming
to
on and talking
watch.
with it and
Yeah.
just like giving.
Yeah, we can pause it
everybody-
here. Later, he brings on the pirate software guy to talk a little bit afterwards too, but he mostly just like agrees with Steven, I'm pretty sure. I only watched a little bit of that, but yeah, like I don't know, seeing the whole video now, I kind of agree. Like I don't know, there was a point in which like I sort of sympathized with Narc, but then I didn't. Like after hearing Steven's part, I was like, okay, well now you kind of convinced me. Like he was really mad. Like not gonna lie, yeah, he Narc kind of admits to it at the end of his video where it's like, yeah, I just wanted to change the direction of my channel. So like he did something kind of crazy in my opinion. Not crazy, but like he was emotional, he made something. I don't know. It
It did
didn't
not come without repercussions.
Yeah,
Because now, like, the whole thing blew up, and I don't think there's any, like, clear winners right now. I think it was a lose-lose scenario. Like, both sides had to come out, had to get inconvenienced, had to be uncomfortable, say things. They both said things that they probably shouldn't have said as well. So it's just like a net loss for everyone in that regard.
Yeah. I mean, like, if Narc doesn't make Ash as a creation content anymore, I'm like, oh well, it's not that big
Yeah.
a deal. Like, I think his content was pretty decent. It was definitely high quality, but it's like there's always room for more content creators to join it, and the
Yeah.
game is still in alpha. Like, I wanted to start making content for it, but I was waiting for their content creator program to start up. I heard they hired someone recently, but the news hasn't kind of broke ever since they reopened the applications like a year and a half ago. So
Right.
I'm just kind of like chilling.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I'm really looking forward to the game still. And I know you're really, I think you're into it. I don't know if Kuro's into it yet. I don't know if I've sold him on the game yet. But you'll definitely hear from
I
me
need lore. I
and
need
my
lore.
lawyers. Lore? There's a ton of lore in the game already. A lot of there's apparently going to be like objectives locked behind lore that you wouldn't learn just by playing the game. You would have to like read the lore for. But there is lore in the game. I'll link you some
Yes.
stuff afterwards. But yeah, I was gonna end my stream there and like maybe make a video about it later on.
All right.
Thanks for hanging out, you guys. I'm gonna raid
Yeah.
into
Yeah.
Mao.
All right. That was a good talk. That
Yeah.
was really interesting. I think it was really cool that we have 3 different like levels of experience with Ashes of Creation, because like you've played the game, I've followed the game for a couple of years and have watched some of the trailers with you, and Kuro's like first time experiencing, so we're each able to add like a little bit of a different perspective.
Right.
And especially as consumers and players, right? And then we
Right.
could like talk about it and get on the same page. I thought that was really cool.
Because like I wanted to make sure like I'm not crazy, right? Like because I have my own opinions. I'm pretty opinionated on my own, but I didn't want to like just be like, yeah, Narc is being kind of crazy right now without hearing someone else who sort of follows it and then someone who doesn't follow it at all. Because like but it seems like we all kind of agree, which is nice.
Mm-hmm.
All right, you're gonna keep streaming?
Yes.
All right, have a good stream, sir, and enjoy
Have
the
a good
raid.
stream.
Bye bye.
Bye byes.
All right, YouTube. Thank you again for sticking around with me. I hope you enjoyed that. I'm gonna probably make a different video about it later, but I'm gonna go take a break now. I've been streaming for like 7 or 8 hours. Love you all. Mwah. Have a great rest of your day, everybody, and I'll see you all tomorrow.
And like Dreads is saying, I do also feel